My mother always defended my older brother, but when he stole my younger brother's fiancée, our family could never be mended. My mother wants me and my brothers to overlook the fact that our younger brother's fiancée was stolen by our cunning golden child older brother. I never imagined that my family would fall apart in this way. A year ago, I would have laughed if someone had predicted that my elder brother, Caleb, would do something so heinous. My mother has always led us to believe that Caleb is the golden child, the one who did everything correctly. However, I can't stop thinking about how we got here as I sit here in my apartment and relive the nightmare that occurred only a few weeks ago. Logan's wedding, or what was meant to be Logan's wedding, was the beginning. Logan, my younger brother, is the most sincere individual I've ever encountered. He is a gentle, considerate man who would give you his last dollar without hesitation. We were all overjoyed when he proposed to Avery. Avery seemed to love Logan as much as he loved her, and she was intelligent and humorous. Together, they were ideal. They were one of those couples you can tell is meant to be. And then there was Caleb. Even now, the details remain unclear. Logan and Avery were choosing flowers and completing the guest list one week. Avery was canceling the wedding the next week. Logan arrived at my door completely broken, which is why I can still clearly recall that day. His eyes were red-rimmed from sobbing, and his face looked pallid. He informed me that Avery had broken up with him. She simply stated that she couldn't carry it out without providing an explanation. I initially believed it might be chilly feet. Yes, that does happen. Weddings are a stressful event. Then, however, the truth was revealed. Avery and Caleb, who was supposed to be Logan's best man, appeared at a family BBQ less than 3 days later. We were all invited over for family time by my mom, Linda. I wanted to see how Logan was doing because I hadn't seen him since he arrived at my door crying. Caleb holding Avery's hand as they walked into the backyard as if it were the most natural thing in the world is something I will always remember. The whole yard fell silent, as if someone had put life on hold. As I tried to take in what I was seeing, I glanced at Avery and then at Caleb. "What on earth is this?" Louder than I intended, I asked. The king of smug smiles, Caleb, shrugged as if it didn't matter. He declared, "Avery and I are now together." Thankfully, Logan wasn't around, but my sister Riley dropped the pitcher of lemonade she was pouring. The patio's glass broke. I couldn't read my mother's expression as she looked at Caleb, but it wasn't one of shock. For me, that was the first warning sign. Linda had forewarned no one, but she instinctively knew this was happening. "You're kidding," I responded, trembling. Avery refused to look at me, so I hoped this was some terrible joke. Her face reddened with guilt, but she continued to stare at the grass. I've detested Caleb's calm-down expression since we were young. In a frustratingly casual tone, he stated, "It's complicated, Mason. But everyone will benefit from this." "For everybody?" I lost my temper. "How about Logan? You just took your brother's fiancée, but what about that?" The term stole made Avery wince, but Caleb didn't even pause. The relationship between her and Logan didn't work out. "This wasn't planned," he said. I made sure he didn't finish though. Too furious to even look at him, I bounded away. Riley came into the kitchen after me. "Did you see Mom?" she said, trembling. She said nothing at all. She seems to be fine with this. The second warning sign was that Caleb had always held a special place in Linda's heart. Being the eldest, he made the family proud with his corporate career and college degree. Logan and I, on the other hand, were just Logan and me. I used to make a joke about us being the family's spare parts, but it didn't feel humorous anymore. I gave Logan a call later that evening. I asked him if he was aware of Avery and Caleb. He didn't. He sounded hollow when I told him, not even upset. Silently. "Of course it was Caleb," he said. "It's always Caleb." The consequences were immediate. Riley completely cut all communication with Caleb. He dismissed my attempt to confront him once more, claiming that I was exaggerating. A few days later, my mother contacted me, her voice eerily serene. "Mason, we need to talk," she remarked. "About what?" Still fuming over Caleb and Avery, I inquired. "This weekend, we're having dinner at the house. Riley and you should come. It's time to put this behind us." I believed I had misheard her. Move past this? Logan was deceived by Avery. His heart was broken by her. Additionally, Caleb. She gently interrupted me, saying, "I know it's hard, but Caleb is still your brother. Despite his error, he is now content. Isn't that the important thing?" I couldn't speak. My mother, who was meant to defend us all equally, was once again taking Caleb's side. Riley rolled her eyes as I told her about the dinner. "Are you serious?" She is attempting to ignore this. Normal. I didn't disagree. Nevertheless, I felt compelled to leave, not for my mother or Caleb, but for Logan. I wanted him to know that he still had support. I was afraid of what I would discover when I arrived at my parents' house on Saturday. Riley was already there, crossing her arms as she sat on the porch. She said, "This is going to be a disaster," as I approached. I refrained from arguing. Caleb sat at the dining table as we entered, smiling as if he hadn't just split the family in two. Avery was also present, sitting next to him as if she were a part of the group. At the head of the table, our mother, Linda, was grinning as though nothing was amiss. "Come sit," she offered with a cheerful tone. "We're going to have a nice family dinner." Riley glanced at me as I gazed at her. I thought I may suffocate since the tension in the air was so heavy. However, as soon as I sat down, the catastrophe started. I was not interested in sitting at the table. To be honest, I wanted to just walk away and flip the fucking thing over. Riley and I had to speak for Logan because he wasn't present. Caleb needed to be called out. What everyone else was too cowardly to say had to be said. With a display of food so spotless that it seemed as though my mother, Linda, believed cooking could clean up this catastrophe, she stood at the head of the dinner table. She was grinning, bringing joy into the space as if she could make it material. Linda said, "Let's just sit down, eat, and talk." Riley whispered to herself, "I'd rather eat glass." As I glanced at her, Avery and Caleb were seated at the far end of the table. The sight of them together still made my blood boil. Avery. As if they were on a freaking date, Caleb had one arm thrown languidly over the back of her chair. However, Avery refused to look at Riley or at me. She continued to look at her dish with her head down, as though the mashed potatoes were the most amazing thing she had ever seen. I inquired, "Where's Logan?" I was surprised at how piercing my voice sounded. I got one of Linda's stoic "you're ruining this" expressions. "Logan decided not to come." Riley answered, "Yeah, no kidding," while crossing her arms. "Wonder why?" Linda gave her a stern look but remained silent. She probably knew Riley wouldn't give up. Riley has always been the firecracker among us. Even though she is only 2 years my junior, she has never shied away from speaking her mind, particularly when it comes to Caleb. Caleb, who was buttering a roll as if he hadn't just exploded a nuclear bomb in our family, caught my attention. "So, Caleb," I replied. "You're just okay with all of this?" He gave me his angry, calm down face as he gazed up at me. God, I detested that expression. Since we were young, he had been giving it to me as if he were superior, smarter, and older. He questioned, "What do you mean by this, Mason?" "This." I waved my hand at him and Avery and snapped. "Caleb, Logan's fiancé, was taken by you. The same Logan who asked you to be his best man because he trusted you enough. With this, are you kidding me?" With a heavy sigh, Caleb put down his butter knife, acting as though I was the one who was being unreasonable. "Look, Mason, this wasn't planned by Avery and me, and I know it's complicated. It just happened. Things just happened." Riley leaned forward in her chair and scoffed. "Is that your justification? You don't just happen to start dating your brother's fiancé?" Riley's comments made Caleb cringe, but he didn't raise his head. I was hoping she would stand up for herself and say something, but she just sat there and let Caleb speak. At last, displaying his aggravation, Caleb combed through his hair. "I won't just sit here and watch the two of you attack us. I have been open and honest with Avery. We're content together and don't require your blessing." "Honest?" I fired back. "You believe your treatment of Logan was sincere? You lacked the courage to tell him directly. Avery had to inform him when she decided to call off the wedding. That's enough." Across the table, Linda's voice could be heard. Mom gave me that familiar scowl of disapproval, the same one Mom used to talk back to me when I was a child. "We are not going to spend this dinner yelling at each other like children." Riley pushed her dish away and said, "Then maybe Caleb shouldn't have acted like one." Linda replied, "Riley, please," in a strained voice. "This isn't beneficial. The reason Caleb and Avery are here is to continue their family's journey. We must all extend forgiveness and move on from this." "Forgive and let this go?" Unable to believe what I was hearing, I gazed at her. "So you're just okay with this?" Slowly, I asked. "You're okay with what Caleb did to Logan?" Linda's expression softened, as though she were addressing a young kid who was just unable to comprehend the world. "Life is complex, Mason. Despite their mistakes, people should have the opportunity to be happy." "Happy?" Riley's fist slammed on the table as she burst. "Logan is wretched, Mom. You're behaving as if none of this is important. You're here acting like a hostess like it's Thanksgiving dinner after Caleb made him feel embarrassed." With his chair scuffing the wooden floor, Caleb got to his feet, You know what? I don't have to sit here and have my home attacked. I've finished our talk. I yelled, "Sit down," in a low, menacing voice that even surprised me. I was so tired of Caleb walking away from everything. Responsibility, consequences. Logan, you don't get to walk in here with Avery like nothing happened and then act like we're the problem. At last, Avery raised her voice, but it was tremulous and quiet. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I turned to her, and so did Riley. I questioned, my rage mixed with incredulity. Then why did it? Avery seemed to be waiting for approval before speaking as she glanced at Caleb. She inhaled deeply when he remained silent. Caleb and we started talking months ago. At first, it was innocent, but... She paused. He told me things about Logan. Things that made me doubt everything. What things? Asked Riley. Avery stumbled over her words. He said Logan didn't really love me. That he was just going through the motions because he felt like he had to settle down. Caleb... I froze as everything came together. For months, Caleb had been sowing doubt in Avery's mind. That was his personality. Attractive, cunning, and self-centered. Riley responded, "You've got to be kidding me," in a disgusted tone. "You let Caleb convince you Logan didn't love you? Logan adored you, Avery. Everyone could see it." Avery winced, but Caleb moved ahead of her while speaking in a chilly tone. "We're not going to sit here and let you two attack Avery. This conversation is over." "Fine," I responded as I got to my feet. "Then I guess I'll have this conversation with Logan instead. I'm sure he'll love hearing how his own brother was working behind the scenes to sabotage his relationship." Linda began. "Mason," but I interrupted her. I turned and left, Riley following closely after me. "Logan deserves better than this, Mom. And if you can't see that, then I don't know what to tell you." Riley released a breath that she had obviously been holding as soon as the front door closed behind us. She mumbled, "Unbelievable. Caleb's not even sorry. He believes his own lies." I didn't respond. What Avery had revealed about Caleb getting into her head and manipulating her emotions had my head spinning. This was no fortuitous romance. For some reason, Linda was ignoring the fact that Caleb had been planning this for months. Riley turned to face me as we entered her vehicle and said, "We have to tell Logan." "I know," I replied. "But I don't think this ends here." And I was correct. It didn't. Riley's engine hummed through the peaceful ride to Logan's place. She remained silent, and I did too. The identical thought was running through both of our minds. How in the heck were we going to explain this to Logan? Avery calling off the wedding was one thing, but what about knowing that Caleb had been deceiving her for months? That seemed like a completely different animal. I kind of thought Logan wouldn't respond when we arrived at his house. With the exception of the occasional text, he had remained a phantom ever since the split. However, the door slowly opened, revealing Logan staring at us with black circles under his eyes. He appeared slimmer, as if he hadn't eaten. He said, "Hey," in a low voice. "Didn't think I'd see you guys tonight." I said, "Can we come in?" After a moment of hesitation, Logan moved aside to allow us to enter. The flat appeared as worn out as he was. The curtains were drawn, his couch appeared to be his bed these days, and takeout containers were piled on the coffee table. Logan laughed without laughter when he saw that I was staring. "Yeah, I know it's a mess. Take a seat," he said, sweeping papers from the cushions and pointing to the couch. Logan remained standing, leaning against the wall with his arms folded, while Riley and I sat. He appeared protective, as though he was aware that we weren't just stopping by. "What's up?" he finally inquired, his gaze darting between us. Riley didn't hold out. "Logan, we need to tell you something about Caleb." Logan stiffened as soon as she spoke Caleb's name. His eyes widened and his jaw tensed. "I don't want to talk about him," I whispered. "You need to hear this. It's about what really happened with Avery." Her name made Logan cringe. I thought he was going to throw us out, but he sat down in the armchair across from us after letting out a trembling breath. "Fine," he replied. "Say whatever you came here to say." I didn't mince words. Despite the pain, Logan deserved to know the truth. Avery told us tonight that Caleb had been talking to her for months. He told her things that made her believe you didn't really love her. At first, Logan's expression remained unchanged. He remained motionless as he gazed at me. He gently averted his gaze and squeezed his fists against his thighs, but I wasn't even positive he had heard me. He spoke the words. "So Caleb convinced her to leave me," in a whispery tone. "Manipulated her," said Riley again. He played with her head. "Logan," she stated. "She thought you were just settling for her because Caleb got in her ear." Logan gave a sour laugh, but it was devoid of humor. Of course he did. That's Caleb. He's always been good at taking things that don't belong to him. I was astonished by the hostility in his voice. Logan has consistently maintained our family's composure. Logan is the quiet anchor if Riley is the firework, and I am the middle child who is always caught in the between. He is not angry. He simply becomes depressed. Now though, he now had an angry expression. He's done this before, Logan stated abruptly as he looked at the ground. Riley said, "What do you mean?" Logan's expression darkened as he looked up. "Do you honestly believe that this is the first time Caleb has taken anything that was rightfully mine? Do you recall my senior school soccer tryout?" Logan inquired. While attempting to piece things together, I scowled and said, "Yeah, you didn't make the team." "No, I did," Logan said with a sour smile. Caleb persuaded the coach that he would be a better option and that I was unreliable, even though I made the squad. It took me years to find out. While Caleb made varsity, I was dismissed. "What?" Riley's eyes widened. "Why didn't you say anything, Logan?" "Because nobody would have believed me," he shrugged, adding, "Caleb has always been the one. The golden boy is Caleb. Caleb is impervious to error." After hearing this, something clicked in my mind. Caleb had been our mother's world for years, charming, ambitious, and self-assured, everything an ideal oldest son should be. However, now that the cracks were showing, it became clear that he didn't just take things because he wanted them. He did it to win, to show that he was superior to the rest of us. "Logan," I continued slowly, "what do you suppose caused him to do this to Avery now?" Logan gave me a dumbfounded look and said, "Because he could. I've always made Caleb envious. It's not over. He does a good job of hiding it. Like he's taken everything else, I believe he decided to take away Avery after realizing how happy I was with her." Logan was right. This wasn't just about Avery. It was about Caleb needing to repeatedly demonstrate that he was the best, regardless of who he injured along the way. There was a brief period of silence. Riley appeared to want to punch a wall, and I felt sick to my stomach. Logan wiped his face and said, "You know what's the worst? I cherished her. I cherished her dearly. I also had faith in Caleb. I assumed he was pleased with me." I muttered, "I'm sorry," since I had no idea what else to say and it seemed so hollow. "You don't have to apologize to me," Logan said, shaking his head. "Please let me know what you plan to do about it." Riley grimaced. "What are you saying?" Logan's voice was harsh as he stated, "I mean, Caleb isn't done? You think he's simply going to stop after this? Mom is already on his side. I'm the bad one for not letting it go, but he'll keep making things up until the rest of the family forgives him. He acts in that manner." Riley and I looked at each other, and Logan was right. I hate to say it, but our mother was already setting the stage for us to go over this, and if we didn't do something, Caleb would win, as he usually does. Riley stated, "Mom needs to see what's going on, so we need to talk to her. She cannot continue to stand up for him." "Good luck with that," said Logan, snorting. "Until the day she passes away, Mom will stand up for Caleb. Your time is being wasted." Linda had always made excuses for Caleb, perhaps because he was the firstborn or because he reminded her of herself, but whatever the reason, she had been ignoring Caleb's behavior for years, and it had finally come to this point. I didn't want to believe that, but I knew deep down that Logan wasn't wrong. One thing was clear to me as I watched my younger brother sit in his damaged apartment, though: Caleb was not going to get away with this time. I firmly stated, "This time, we're not going to let him win." After giving me a long look, Logan nodded and said, "Good. Because I'm tired of being a punching bag for Caleb." I sensed a change in myself as Riley and I left Logan's apartment that evening. I was done being kind, done letting Caleb bully everyone while Linda applauded him, and it was time to face Caleb head on. This time, I wasn't going to hold back. Riley and I quickly decided what needed to happen next. Caleb needed to be confronted, really confronted, and not just about Avery. This was about everything that Caleb had been doing for years, including manipulating people, twisting circumstances, and making himself appear like the ideal son while ignoring the rest of us. Logan was correct. Caleb wouldn't stop unless he was forced to, and we were going to force him. When Riley and I unexpectedly arrived at our parents' house the following morning, Linda opened the door, looking astonished to see us and as though she had been up all night worrying. To be honest, good. Her grin was forced. "Mason, Riley," she continued. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk to Caleb," I said as I walked into the living room, sweeping past her. Linda groaned deeply as she shut the door, and Riley trailed behind me. "This again? Can't you just," she asked, her voice already worn out. Riley interrupted, turning to stare at her saying, "No, Mom. We can't." "Is Caleb present?" I inquired. "He's upstairs, but I don't know why you," Linda said after hesitating, then nodded. "Perfect," I murmured as I made my way up the stairs. Linda called after me and said, "Mason, don't start anything." Linda had let Caleb for too long, and it was time for someone to do what she wouldn't do, so I disregarded her. I didn't care what Linda thought at this point. Caleb was sitting on his bed with his laptop open when Riley and I marched up the stairs and down the hallway to his old bedroom. The door was half open, so we didn't bother knocking, and I pushed it open. His face twisted into a mixture of smugness and annoyance when he looked up and saw us. "To whom am I due this distinction? Here to lecture me some more?" Caleb replied, leaning back against the wall and shutting his laptop. I crossed my arms and remarked, "We're here for answers, not to lecture you." "I've already explained everything," Caleb said, rolling his eyes. "I didn't plan this with Avery, it just happened. Why aren't you all able to accept that and go on?" "Because it's a lie," Riley said. "Avery told us that you had been peeping into her head for months. You were ruining her friendship with Logan the entire time, Caleb." Even as Caleb's face reddened, his arrogant look persisted. "So? What? Relationships are always ending. Logan's inability to retain her is not my fault." "You think this is a game, don't you?" I said, stiffening my fists at my sides as I walked toward him. "You're not even sorry for what you did. Why would I?" "Logan was never right for Avery," Caleb retorted. "I was kind to her." "You took her," Riley screamed. "You can't stand seeing other people happy, so you tricked her into leaving Logan." "Watch it, Riley," Caleb said as he got to his feet, his face changing to a more icy one. "You have no idea what you're discussing." I answered softly, "Oh, we know precisely what we're talking about. Caleb, you've been doing this for years. Stealing what belongs to Logan, undermining him, and claiming to be the golden child while the rest of us suffer as a result. You're being dramatic." Caleb grinned. "Am I? Logan told us about the soccer team, how you persuaded the coach to cut him so you could take his place," I shot back. "Does that sound familiar?" For a brief moment Caleb's grin wavered, but he immediately got back to it. "That was years ago. Who gives a damn? Logan is concerned. Just like you ruined this, you ruined that for him," Riley yelled. Caleb chuckled, but it was a mocking, bitter laugh. "You guys are unbelievable," he said. "Do you believe that I am the bad guy? Logan is pitiful. He was and always has been. He allows others to walk all over him because he is weak. Avery chose me because I'm superior to him. I didn't steal her." Riley stepped forward and poked a finger at Caleb's chest, saying, "You're not better than anyone, Caleb." Even though I could feel my fury boiling. "The only reason you get away with being a manipulator and a liar is because Mom allows it." Caleb snarled, "Leave Mom out of this." "Why?" Riley retorted. "We all know you're her favorite. No matter what you do, she will stand up for you." Linda suddenly materialized in the doorway. "What's happening in here?" With a strong voice, she demanded. Riley turned to stare at her and added, "Ask your perfect son." Adding that he had recently confessed to coercing Avery into leaving Logan. Linda turned to face Caleb as her face went white. Is that true?" "Of course not," Caleb answered softly, his voice flowing. "Mom, they're misrepresenting what I said. I didn't do it. You claim that Avery picked you because you're superior to Logan," Riley yelled. Linda's expression was unreadable as she turned to face Caleb, who gave her a wide, naive look, as he often did when he had to get out of trouble. "Come on, Mom, you are familiar with me, I would never act in such a manner." For a while, I hoped that Linda would finally recognize Caleb for who he truly was, but she hesitated, and I could see the doubt in her eyes. Then, as usual, she folded. Her voice was tense as she replied, "I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding. We're not going to solve anything by yelling." Riley laughed bitterly and said, "It's unbelievable. You continue to protect him." "I'm not defending anyone," Linda responded. "But I'm not going to let this family fall apart over a relationship that didn't work out." "This family already is falling apart," I whispered quietly. "And it's because of Caleb." Caleb looked bored and shrugged, saying, "Cry about it." I finished our talk. Riley snapped, "No. We're done with you." "What is the intended meaning of that?" Caleb narrowed his brows and asked. I said, "Logan's done. It means we're not letting you win this time. Riley is finished." "I am too. You're by yourself. You can't just cut me out of the family," Caleb said, looking truly shaken for the first time. Watch us, replied Riley icily. Mom, you can act like Caleb is flawless all you want, but the rest of us aren't playing along anymore, I said, turning to Linda, who appeared stunned. Either you're with us or you're with him. You make the decision. Linda gave me a slap-like look and said, You can't ask me to choose. Riley remarked softly, You simply aren't aware that you've already made your decision. I believe that Caleb recognized that he had finally lost control and pushed himself too far since he didn't say anything as we were leaving, and for once, he didn't have a smug response or a lazy shrug. I was relieved as Riley and I left the house because, although Caleb might not be facing actual repercussions today, he would eventually, people like him usually do, and I wasn't going to be there to catch him when he fell for the first time. After that altercation, we didn't hear from either Caleb or Linda for a few days. To be honest, I believe they were both waiting for us to return, as we always did, especially with Linda. In our family, things had always gone like this. Caleb made a mistake, Mom covered it up, and the rest of us had to keep our mouths shut for the sake of keeping the peace, but not this time. You have no idea how long I felt like I was screaming into a void, I added, and Logan actually appeared glad when we told him about what had transpired at the home. It's about time, he muttered, shaking his head. Riley and I had made our decision. Linda made several attempts to contact us over the course of the following week, first by phone and then by text, but each message was the same. Family doesn't behave like this, so we need to communicate. Caleb is your brother, and while I understand your anger, this has gone too far. You don't fully comprehend the story. Let's discuss this over dinner. We chose to ignore her. Riley, Logan, and I were all on the same page for the first time, and it felt liberating. Caleb was no longer our responsibility, so we didn't have to comply if Linda wanted to hold on to him. Caleb wasn't finished though. On a Thursday night, I received a call from an unknown number. I don't typically accept such, but for some reason, I decided to answer. Hello, Mason. I remained silent for a moment, almost expecting Caleb to knock on my door, but I was still taken aback when I heard his voice. It sounded desperate, not cocky or arrogant. What are you looking for? With a flat voice I asked. Caleb hurriedly continued. I need to talk to you. It's important. Hard pass. His voice trembled. Mason, please. And I was shocked because Caleb demanded things instead of asking for them. I answered, against my better judgment. All right. Don't talk on the phone. In an hour, meet me at the depot, please. I didn't want to attend, but I couldn't get rid of the feeling that something wasn't right. The depot was an old diner we used to frequent as kids, and it felt strangely symbolic, as if Caleb was trying to exploit some shared history to guilt me into listening. I didn't recognize Caleb for a moment when I entered the depot an hour later and saw him sitting at a booth in the corner. He had bags under his eyes as if he hadn't slept in days, and his normally flawless hair was unkempt. Caleb, what do you want? I questioned, slipping into the seat across from him. He didn't immediately respond, instead looking down at the table with his fingers tapping nervously. I messed up, he finally stated in a hushed voice. With a sour laugh, I said, yeah, no kidding. No, Mason, I made a huge mistake, more than you thought. I had never seen Caleb this afraid, and there was something about the way he said it that made the hair on the back of my neck rise up. What are you discussing? I inquired. After inhaling deeply, Caleb shakily exhaled. I'm in trouble. Bad luck. I saw panic for the first time in his eyes as he glanced up at me. What sort of issue? With quivering fingers, Caleb ran a hand through his hair and nodded. Debt. I owe a lot of people a lot of money. Mason, I made an effort to correct it, but it got out of hand. His voice broke as he trailed off. Avery. What are you saying? I asked, feeling sick to my stomach. I think I've never seen Caleb seem so embarrassed as he looked at me. I needed money, he said. I reasoned that by getting to know Avery better, I might be able to persuade her to assist me. Her family is wealthy, so I reasoned that perhaps. You made use of her? Startled, I cut in. You used Avery as leverage because of your debt? Despite his recoil, Caleb said. I didn't intend for it to get this far. Although I didn't anticipate her leaving Logan for me, I was unable to stop it once it got going. Caleb had not simply taken Logan's fiancée because he wanted to win, he had done it out of desperation. He had played with Avery's emotions, ruined Logan's life, and split our family apart in order to hide the catastrophe he had created for himself. I gazed at him, trying to take in what he had just said. Is Mom aware? Quietly, I inquired. No, and she can't, Caleb said, shaking his head. If she learns, I'm finally able to recognize you for who you truly are. Good, I responded sourly. She is entitled to the truth. Caleb's voice was suddenly begging, "Please, Mason, I need your assistance. I have no other people." "Aid you?" I chuckled incredulously. "Are you serious? After all of your actions?" Caleb said, "You're my brother. Family is meant to stay together." "Don't you dare pull the family card," I responded. "You don't get to hide behind that after what you did to Logan." Like a drowning man pleading for a life raft, Caleb gazed at me and said, "Please. Without you, I am unable to resolve this." I felt nothing for Caleb for the first time in my life, no rage or hatred, just emptiness. He was no longer my brother, he was just a man who had ruined every relationship he had ever had. I got up and said, "Caleb, you need help, but it won't come from me." Caleb started to disagree, but before he could say anything more, I left. Later that night, Riley, Logan, and I convened at my place, and for once, no one was shocked when I told them all Caleb had confessed. Logan said, "He's always been like this. It just took him this long to fall apart." "How about Mom? Should we tell her?" Riley said. After giving it some serious thought, I shook my head and said, "No. She's made up her mind. Let her if she wants to think Caleb is flawless. We're done with him though, alongside her. With everything. I had spent my entire life trying to keep this family together, but now I know that sometimes you have to let things fall apart." For the first time in years, I felt free. Neither Linda nor Caleb were my burden anymore. With a small smile on his lips, Logan turned to face Riley and me and said, "You think we'll be all right?" "Yeah," I replied with a smile. "We'll be all right." And I did believe it for once. Excluded from my sister's wedding, I went on vacation. When the wedding fell apart, my whole family frantically tried to reach me. "You're overreacting. It's just a wedding," my mother said. I was not invited to my own sister's wedding. Instead, I scheduled a trip. Days later, my relatives blew up my phone. I sat there, staring at my screen, reading the message for the 5th time. "Hey, just wanted to let you know the guest list is finalized and we had to make some tough cuts. Hope you understand. Love you." Tough cuts. Tough cuts. I wasn't some distant cousin. I wasn't an old family acquaintance whom they hadn't seen in years. I was her brother. And my sister, the same sister I had assisted through every crisis, heartbreak, and moment of self-doubt, had just cut me out as an afterthought. I glanced at the screen, a slow pang of unbelief spreading into my chest. I nearly laughed, because this had to be a mistake. I took up the phone and called my mother. She responded on the second ring, her voice upbeat. "Hey sweetheart, what's up?" I didn't bother making small talk. "I just got a message from Emily. She says the guest list is finalized and I'm not on it." There was a pause. Just long enough to prove what I had previously suspected. "Oh honey," my mother sighed. She always used that voice to make me feel like I was being unreasonable. "It's just a wedding. Don't make a big deal out of this. Just a wedding." I felt a hot stinging coil in my stomach. "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice unusually calm. "Mom, I'm her brother. How am I not invited to my own sister's wedding?" She produced a tisk sound, as if I were a toddler having a tantrum. "It's not personal. They had to keep the guest list small and—" "Mom." I cut her off. "I just saw Emily's Instagram post. She invited 150 people." Silence. Then, a forced chuckle. "Well, you know how things are. Weddings are expensive. And maybe they assumed you wouldn't mind skipping this one." I felt like I had been hit in the stomach. "Wouldn't mind?" I asked. "Mom, I've been there for Emily through it all. I helped her relocate twice. When she lost her job, we covered half of her rent. And I was the one who helped her get over her last breakup. But now I'm not good enough to be there on her special day." "Oh, stop being dramatic," my mother remarked with a sigh. "It's just one day. You're overreacting." I laughed briefly and without humor. Overreacting, right? I could already predict how things would go. I would argue. My mother would shrug me off. Emily would certainly provide a half-hearted apologies later. I'd be expected to forgive and forget. Because that is what I have always done. Not this time. Something within me cracked. If I wasn't worthy of inclusion, then fine, I would not be. I hung up without saying anything and began browsing through my phone. If I wasn't planning to attend Emily's wedding, then I was going to be somewhere much nicer. I was going on a vacation. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I wasn't the type of guy who got upset over trivial matters. I had previously let a lot slide. Emily had repeatedly forgotten my birthday. She would only call me when she needed something. Our mother always wanted me to be the understanding one. Emily managed to get away with murder. But this was an entirely new level of disdain. I wasn't going to sit around moping while my sister and the rest of the family played happy little wedding without me. If I wasn't significant enough to be featured, then I wasn't significant enough to be present when they needed me. I grabbed my laptop and began looking up flights. If Emily could have the happiest day of her life, then I planned to enjoy the best week of my life. It took less than an hour to plan. I reserved all-inclusive accommodations at a 5-star resort in the Caribbean. Suite with an ocean view, spa services, and access to a private beach. I had always convinced myself that such a trip would be too pricey. Not this time. I wasn't just traveling for a holiday. I was making a statement. When the wedding weekend came around, I was already on a plane, enjoying champagne in first class. I made sure to upload a picture, legs extended out, drink in hand, with this caption. Guess I got cut from the guest list, but I think I'll survive. The reactions were nearly immediate. Some of my cousins sent laughing emojis. My aunt, the only rational member in the family, commented, "Good for you. Should have taken me with you." But what's the best reaction? That came from my mother. She sent me 3 texts in a row. Mom asks, "Where are you?" My mom. "Are you seriously missing your sister's wedding over this?" Mother. "You're being petty." Petty? I wasn't even close to finishing. I responded with a photo of the beach, complete with white sand, crystal blue ocean, and a postcard perfect view. Then I shut off the phone. I wasn't about to let them guilt me. Not this time. For the first time in many years, I was not putting my family first. I was putting myself first. And it felt incredible. By the time I arrived in paradise, I had entirely eliminated any lingering remorse. The moment I walked out of the airport, the warm ocean breeze touched me, bearing the aroma of salt and tropical flowers. A private car was waiting to drive me to the resort. A stylish black SUV with chilled towels and bottled water in the backseat. Yeah. This was far better than a wedding. As we drove down the coast, I reflected on how right I had been to accomplish this. Back home, my family was presumably busy preparing for the big day. My mother was probably making excuses for why I wasn't present. My sister was laughing with her bridesmaids, not giving me a second thought. But I wasn't treated as an afterthought here. Here, I was the priority. My priority. The resort was something out of a fantasy. The lobby has enormous palm trees blooming within. A massive open-air architecture that allowed in the ocean wind. And the kind of service where you were greeted with a cocktail before you checked in. My room? Unreal. Floor-to-ceiling windows and a private balcony and the most gorgeous king-size bed I'd ever seen. I threw down my things, strolled out onto the balcony, and simply took it all in. Then, just to make matters worse, I took a picture of the scenery and shared it with this caption. When one door closes, another one opens, preferably to a beachside suite with unlimited margaritas. I knew it would find its way back to my family, and honestly, I hoped it did. Because for once, they could understand what it was like to be left out. And I was only getting started. The first full day of my trip was simply fantastic. I began the morning with room service, which included fluffy pancakes, fresh fruit, and coffee that was so wonderful it ruined every cup I'd ever tasted. Then I spent the entire day doing precisely what I wanted. No responsibilities. There's no family turmoil. Just me, the ocean, and a timetable focused only on my own enjoyment. By the afternoon, I was lounging on a sunbed by the infinity pool, martini in hand, watching the waves roll in. Every so often, I'd check at my phone, not to check in with my family. But look at the growing amount of responses to my vacation blogs. The comments were gold. Cousin Jake. Bro, where are you even? Aunt Lisa. Okay, now you're just showing off. An old college acquaintance says, dude, invite me next time. Finally, I received a notification that made me smirk. Emily saw your article. Oh, now she was paying attention. I could just imagine her reaction, sitting in the bridal room, sipping inexpensive champagne, scrolling through Instagram only to see me having my best life while she is anxious about her wedding. Good. I leaned back, took another sip of my beverage, and thought, enjoy your special day, sis. I hope it's all you wanted. However, when the sun began to set, something unusual occurred. My phone started to explode. Initially, I ignored it. I figured it was just more people reacting to my photos. But then I noticed these names. Mom. Emily. Cousin Jake. Even Uncle Rob. Call after call. Texts are coming in non-stop. I raised an eyebrow and eventually opened my phone. The first text I saw was from my mother. Mother. Call me. It's an emergency. Is there an emergency? Attending the wedding? I sighed, debating whether I really cared. Jake then sent another message. Jake's reaction. Dude, you are not going to believe what just happened. Oh, now I was curious. I sat up and scrolled through the texts. And I quickly understood that the universe had given me the nicest wedding gift I could have ever hoped for. Because as it turned out, Emily's beautiful wedding had gone up in flames. I scanned through a torrent of messages. My sneer grew with each one. Jake replied, Bro. You dodged a bullet. Mother. Call me right now. This is a family crisis. Emily, please. Where are you? I need you. I stretched out in my lounge chair. I took another drink of my cocktail and continued scrolling. Then I discovered a message that made me laugh out loud. According to cousin Melissa, the groom simply walked out. I almost choked on my drink. Did the groom leave? Oh, this was better than I could have expected. Curiosity got the best of me, so I eventually texted Jake back. My response? What do you mean he left? Jake. Dude, during the reception, full meltdown. He and Emily had some huge fight and then he just walked out. Straight up left the venue. Jake, again. Oh, and then Uncle Rob and Dad got into a screaming match over who was ruining the family's reputation. Grandma cried. The venue cut the bar early. It's a mess. I leaned back, smirking. My sister had refused to let me attend the wedding, believing that she didn't need me. And now? Suddenly, I was the first person they all ran towards. I could already hear my mother's voice in my brain. You need to fix this, Emily is devastated. Yes, no thanks. I opened the following message. It came from Emily. Emily says, answer your phone. Please, I need you. Oh, suddenly I was significant. I took a deep breath and typed back a single response. Me. Sorry, I'm a little busy enjoying my overreaction. Hope the wedding was fun. And then, I blocked her phone number. I blocked my mother. I also blocked Jake, just in case he got drawn into their guilt trip operation. Then I turned my phone to do not disturb mode, waved over the bartender, and ordered another drink. Because, while my family spiraled, I was in paradise. And for once, I wasn't bothered. The following morning, I awoke to the sound of waves breaking on the shore. The aroma of sea and tropical flowers wafted through my open balcony doors. I stretched and yawned. And for one lovely minute, I almost forgot about the pandemonium at home. Almost. Then I looked at my phone. Even though I blocked the majority of my family, I still had more than 20 missed calls from random numbers. They tried everything to contact me. Several voicemails had slipped through. Despite my better judgment, I pressed play on the first one. Mom's voice, frantic. I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is not the time for one of your tantrums. Your sister is devastated and we need you here. This family needs to stick together right now. I rolled my eyes before deleting it. Next voicemail. Emily is crying. I don't understand why you're doing this. You're my brother. I need you. Please, just call me back. Click. Deleted. The following one had me laughing. Jake whispered as if he were hiding in a closet. Dude, Mom and Aunt Lisa are planning to show up at your apartment when you get back. Just a heads up. Also, Grandma keeps saying the wedding was cursed because you weren't there. It's hilarious. Was that a voicemail? I've saved. I tossed my phone on the bed and stepped out onto the balcony. The sun had just begun to rise. Creating a golden glow over the ocean, I took a deep breath, allowing the warmth of it to sink in. Back at home, my family was scrambling to perform damage control. Meanwhile, I was here, sipping espresso while wearing a bathrobe, enjoying the best decision I'd ever made. And the best part? They were now feeling what I had felt when they cut me out. Unwanted. Forgotten. Left out. It was rather poetic, actually. But I wasn't finished yet. I grabbed my phone. I took a photo of my breakfast, which included fluffy pancakes, fresh fruit, and a mimosa that was so brilliant it might blind someone. And posted it with this caption. Starting my day stress-free. Hope everyone back home is doing okay. Then, just for fun, I went through my blocked messages, grinned at all of the missed calls, and ordered another mimosa. I didn't intend to call them back. Allow them to clean up their own mess. I was on vacation. By midday, I was relaxing under a secluded cabana, sipping a tropical drink with an umbrella when my phone vibrated again. This time, the message came from cousin Melissa. Melissa. Okay, I know you're mad. And honestly, you deserve to be. But you have to hear what happened after the wedding. Call me. You're going to love this. I raised an eyebrow. Melissa has always been the only cousin with a brain. If she mentioned that I needed to hear anything, it was probably worth the time. So, despite my better judgment, I called her. She answered the first ring. "Oh my God, you're finally answering," she said, unable to contain her joy. "Okay, are you sitting down?" I gazed about in my shaded cabana, the vast ocean in front of me and the chilled beverage in my palm. "Yeah, I think I'm in a good place for whatever this is." Melissa let out a breathless laugh. "Okay." After the groom left, Emily had a complete meltdown. And I don't mean a few tears. I mean yelling, wailing, and throwing objects at the wedding party. I smirked. "Sounds about right." Melissa continued, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. Everyone was attempting to calm her down. Mom overheard Aunt Lisa suggest that the disaster could have been avoided. "If you'd been there?" I blinked. "Wait, what?" Melissa giggled. "Yes, she was saying that you've always been the one to mend problems when Emily spirals. That if you were present, you would have talked sense into the groom or handled everything like you normally do." I burst into laughter. "So let me get this straight. The same family that barred me from the wedding is now blaming me for not being present to preserve it." "Oh, it gets better," Melissa remarked. "Mom told Lisa she was acting ridiculous. And then they started fighting. Loudly. Then Grandma became involved. Saying Emily brought this on herself. Because she offended the cosmos by not inviting her brother." I almost choked on my drink. Melissa was cackling now. Grandma lectured Emily in front of everyone, stating, "If you had treated your family better, you wouldn't be alone in your wedding dress right now." I leaned back smirking. "Wow, that's beautiful." "Oh, and then," Melissa said, "your mother attempted to contact the groom's family to resolve the situation?" His mother just smiled and said, "This is your issue now." I had to set down my drink before I spilled it from laughing so hard. "So," I said, collecting my breath, "where does that leave Emily?" Melissa sighed. "Still weeping. Still blaming everyone except herself. Last I heard, she was trying to save the wedding with some sort of backup plan. But let's be honest, she's not going to recover from this." I shook my head, grinning. "You know what the best part is?" "What?" I took a slow sip from my drink. "I don't care." Melissa roared with laughter. "Honestly, I don't blame you. I just thought you'd appreciate knowing that karma did its job." "Oh, I love knowing that," I remarked, smirking. "Thanks for the update, Melissa." "No problem," she replied. "Enjoy your trip, and for the record, you did the right thing." I hung up, more satisfied than I had been in years. They wanted a wedding without me. And now, thanks to their own selfishness, they had a disaster instead. I grabbed up my drink and raised it to the heavens. And I toasted to the best decision I've ever made. Then I turned off my phone and relaxed back in my cabana. Let the beach air sweep away the rest of my shame. For the remainder of the day, I didn't look at my phone. Instead, I scheduled a sunset cruise. Allow the warm breeze to wash over me, and had a 5-star meal by the seaside. My family was still picking up the pieces from Emily's wedding tragedy. I was enjoying the greatest steak I'd ever had. At some point, a notion occurred to me. Perhaps I should feel sorry for her. Then I remembered how she left me out without hesitation. Yes, no. I took a sip from my wine. I took one last shot of the view. And shared it with one caption. 0 regrets. Finally, with a contented smile, I turned off my phone again. Let them stew, I was done being their backup plan. The following morning, I awoke feeling lighter than I have in years. There is no guilt. There will be no tension. There were no last-minute family emergencies that became my job to solve. Just myself and the sound of waves. And an entire day of nothing but rest. I stretched, ordered room service, and, out of curiosity, I turned my phone back on. A big mistake. Within seconds, my notification surged. Mom said, "You need to stop acting like a child and call me." Emily's response. "I can't believe you're doing this to me. You are so selfish. Your mother. This isn't funny." Emily is heartbroken. "Do you even care?" Unknown number, possibly my aunt. "We need to fix this family before it's too late." I groaned and shook my head. It was almost surprising how swiftly they moved from ignoring me to expect me to cure everything. Then, one message struck my attention. "Melissa. Okay, I understand you are ignoring everyone, but please read this. Your mother is trying to gather the family for a discussion when you return. Just a heads up. I almost laughed aloud. Oh, they assumed I would return as if nothing had happened. As if I'd just come up and let their guilt trip me. And pretend the entire thing never occurred. Yeah, not happening. I quickly replied to Melissa. Thanks for the warning, but I won't be there. Melissa says, wait, what do you mean? Me. I'm extending my trip. They wanted to cut me out? Okay. I'm cutting myself off altogether. I could almost see her reaction. A combination of astonishment and amusement. A few seconds later, she responded. Melissa. Okay, that's iconic. Tell me everything when you get back, whenever that is LOL. I grinned, set down my phone, and grabbed up my laptop. With a few clicks, my trip was officially extended. Another entire week. There's no family. There's no drama. No family discussions. Just me and the water. They never allowed me to have peace. And the best part? They couldn't do anything about it. Before going to the beach, I sent one final text. Me, Mom, and Emily. Oh, so you want me around? Sorry, I'm too busy enjoying my reactions. Have fun cleaning up your own messes. Then, for the last time, I blocked their numbers. I put my phone down. Ordered another drink. Let the sun warm my skin. There is no guilt. There will be no tension. No regrets. Just peace. And it was the best decision I've ever made. I quietly left after discovering my wife's affair. A year later, she came back asking for forgiveness and hoping to reconcile. After learning of my wife's adultery, I moved to the hills. I am not sure why I am writing this, but perhaps it will be useful to someone now that the situation has passed and I have moved on. After 3.5 years of marriage, I discovered my wife's affair in February 2018. I worked a contract job that periodically required extensive travel but also allowed me to work from home when I returned. My position as the director of a technical sales company was both hard and flexible. My wife maintained a highly profitable position. Although things had gotten a little strained as she worked longer and longer hours and I traveled for work, we still had what I would consider a fairly good marriage. Background. 5 years ago, during a cookout held by a mutual acquaintance, I met my wife, who is now my ex. We hit it off right away once we started conversing. To be honest, I thought being with a lady who was both attractive and articulate was a great advantage. She seemed to like my rough around the edges personality. After a few weeks of dating, we were charmed with each other. When we met at each other's apartments, the clothing just flew off. After 18 months of dating, we married and moved into a spacious apartment while saving for a down payment on a house. Things started to alter after the first 3 years of marriage. Even though I still had affection for her, I noticed that she argued over minor issues. When I mentioned all the late hours and increasingly frequent work outings, she became enraged. Since she was climbing up the corporate ladder, she would explain that it was a necessary component of paying the dues, or so she thought. She told me that since I was also gone for weeks at a time, I had no right to challenge her. In truth, I had only been taking 3 or 4 days off every 5 weeks or so. So I promised her that I could absolutely cut back on my commute time. There was no conclusion to these exceedingly circular arguments. Looking back, I realized I was completely oblivious that my wife was having an affair. Aside from our decreasing sexual relationship and her continuously late work hours, I would never have guessed anything. I just figured she was exhausted from her job. But being rejected so frequently when I attempted to initiate a sexual relationship had taken a toll on my ego. Although she had a business phone and may have been using it, I did not see the covert texting that I had read about in other publications. She used our spare bedroom as a home office and spent a lot of time in it. Kathy began returning home after work in September 2017 and instead spent the evening at a work engagement. This rose from 1 night per week to more than 3 evenings each week. Although I am not typically envious, she would surely be noticed by others. And I am aware that she will need to repel some of the males at her workplace. Despite working with more male CEOs than female CEOs, she gave the impression that she was solely interested in her profession. I originally believed she was cheating about a month before D-Day. Before coming home, she made a quick stop at the store. I was asked to help her with the food shopping. As I was getting some belongings from the back seat, I noticed something pink glinting just beneath the front passenger seat of her car. This was a bra. A bra belonged to my wife. She preferred ones from a specific clothes store, so I knew they were hers. Looking back, I see the bra was a warning sign. When she's feeling particularly amorous, she always takes her bra out from underneath her clothes first. I'm not sure why, but seeing this made me sick to my stomach right away. I didn't understand why her bra was under the seat. I said nothing more. My heart must have been beating so fast that I almost passed out. Because when I returned the bags to the kitchen, Kathy asked how I was doing and mentioned that I appeared to have seen a ghost. I just ignored her remark. It took everything I had to hide my feelings, but I tried not to appear offended or fooled. I decided to try to find out if she was seeing anyone. That night and the next day, I began to evaluate all of the signals I could have missed. Aside from the bra, I had no evidence. She works in a downtown office building, and we live in a relatively large city. I decided to temporarily put the affair out of my mind and explore giving her more of my time. I prepared a delicious supper and set the dining table with elegant plates, silverware, and candles. One Friday after work, I bought a bouquet of flowers and a wonderful bottle of wine. When she arrived, I showed her the supper and all I had prepared, as usual, breezing in after work. She apologized and expressed her regret, but she needed to go to a neighborhood hangout to meet up with her coworkers. She said she needed to take a shower first, but she could share a small snack with me before leaving. I guess I fell completely silent because my insides turned on me. I won't go into detail about how angry I was at the time, but I'd had enough. I took my work cell phone and dumped it in her backseat while she was showering. I had considered using my own phone to trace her. I then went into the kitchen and tossed away the food and flowers. After taking a shower, she prepared and looked gorgeous, as usual. "All right, let's eat," she replied. "Never mind. Go out with your friends," I said. She inquired whether I was angry after giving me a strange expression. "I'm sad that you never want to do anything with me," I told you. She became agitated and remarked cynically on my short fuse, ordering me to quit acting like a child. "Foolish me," I said as I stood there, letting everything sink in. For once, I thought we should spend the evening together. She merely smiled and stormed away. When she left, I grabbed out my second phone and started following my work phone. I caught her stopping about 20 minutes away, at the bar where she frequently meets with her coworkers. I decided to go find her car. Indeed, it was in the bar's parking lot. I waited in my car across the street to see if I could find her. I felt really different, like a stalker. But I told myself I needed to soothe my fears about her whereabouts. I saw her leaving the bar with a man approximately an hour after I arrived. He looked like an executive from her company. He grabbed her, dragged her closer, and planted a kiss on her lips. My body became completely numb. My stomach began to tighten up. They walked to another vehicle and hopped inside together. When their car pulled away, I attempted to catch up with them. You guessed. They drove to a hotel 10 minutes away. As I parked on the street next to the hotel, I observed them depart the car holding hands and walk inside. I had seen enough. I felt ridiculous. I started banging the steering wheel with my fist. That was it. Something went completely blank inside of me. I'm not sure whether I had an out-of-body experience or simply passed out. However, as I regained consciousness, I felt the want to drink. At this point, my life took an unexpected turn. I'd just begun driving, out of town, replaying all I had just seen. I was crying out of both fury and despair. I hate to acknowledge it. I found a nice tiny tavern on the outskirts of town. Some 30 miles away, they stopped in. I ordered a drink while sitting at the bar. The bartender, a lady, commented on how I appeared to have lost my wind. "So I guess I resemble death." I responded, partly smiling. "You could say that." A man sat beside me and began a chat. Even though I didn't feel like speaking, something about this guy made me feel at peace. We initiated a chat, and finally, my wife's unfaithfulness came up. I told him I just wanted to get away from her and forget about her. "You're not alone, buddy," he answered, patting my back. After giving me a cursory look, he said, "I went through that a few years ago. I believe there is a reason why these things occur. Your life may now take a favorable or negative turn. I promise you, at this moment, everything is completely up to you." His words, for some reason, startled me out of my funk. Despite being conscious of my agony, I've always had the ability to see things rationally, and he was totally right. We introduced ourselves. Rye was his name. I truly liked his salt-of-the-earth attitude, even though he was more of a country boy. "Are you planning to move out?" he inquired. "I suppose. I never considered looking that far ahead. I was experiencing a fight-or-flight response. And I realized I didn't want to be around this woman any longer. I've got an idea. And I sympathize with your situation," Rye said. "When the time comes, I have a mobile trailer on my land, in case you feel the need to go," Rye told him. "It might take some effort and isn't very excellent. Why don't you come and see if you can envision yourself short living in anything like that? I'll give you a great deal on it, at the very least." You could even park it on a beautiful piece of land I own. I'd be grateful if you could watch it for me. It may be helpful to get out of your current situation. Only a thought. I took a while to grasp his concept. Hell, honey, if I could have escaped my insane ex-husband years earlier, I would have jumped at the chance to go live in his trailer, or anywhere, just to get my head on track. The bartender, who had been listening in, added his own comment. Perhaps this is just what I needed. But I felt like I'd strayed into the twilight zone. Yes, I will think about it. Maybe check it out, I said to Rye. After a time, we broke up and planned to meet at his house in a few days. I began to feel as though I had some perspective. And an opportunity to escape what I thought was dreadful grief and horror. I knew one thing for certain. I'd never want to spend time with my wife again. I find cheating nasty. And that was always something I imagined I'd never have to put up with. I sat on the couch when I got home that evening. Kathy walked out and inquired where I had been. Where have you been? I should be asking you that, I responded, turning to face her. I went to grab drinks, she explained. I directly inquired. Are you having an affair? She looked astonished. But she quickly gathered herself and replied, No. Why are you asking me that? I told her that I'd heard she might be seeing someone at work. Who told you this? She asked. Someone I know, I responded, keeping the name to myself. You're being ridiculous, she said. Then they accused me of being inebriated and deranged. She asked where I had been. We were going to a bar to enjoy some drinks with our friends, I told them. Despite her clear eagerness to ask further questions, she returned to our bedroom and retired to bed. Now that I had proof she had been lying to me for months, I decided to sleep on the sofa. I couldn't sleep at all. I kept seeing her in bed with the guy. I felt bad for myself. Disgusted. Hurt. But then I thought of Rye's trailer. The thought of that made me happy. It seemed almost like a revelation. Something must be wrong with me. Because the fight or flight reaction had immediately awakened amid the pain I was feeling, and I definitely preferred the flight response. We did not talk much the next morning. We moved on with our weekend as if nothing had happened. I set up a meeting with Rye a few days later. When I got there, I discovered Rye had a beautiful ranch. The trailer was actually fairly nice, about 26 feet long and well furnished. It reminded me of a fantastic spring break vacation I took with friends while in college. Rye accepted the money I gave for the trailer. To be honest, I felt like I was taking something from him. He gave me directions, so I drove over to inspect his ranch property. There were hiking and biking trails nearby, and the scenery was beautiful, with plenty of trees and scrub vegetation. Rye had a little cabin on a hilltop overlooking the property, with electricity and water available to the trailer. It was near the foothills of various mountains. Rye offered to set up the trailer and transport it to the place. I tried to convince Kathy to come clean over the next few weeks, but all I got was gaslighting. I even told her outright that if I found out she was cheating, there would be no turning back. As a result, she got even more immersed in her affair fog, lashing out at me with denials. I almost chuckled at how horrible the denial was. I chastised myself for not taking photographs of the two of them. I had no concrete evidence that she had cheated. After suffering through so much emotional anguish, I realized I wanted to leave this marriage. Instead of articulating my feelings to Kathy, I just started plotting. While she was at work, I quietly began collecting my belongings from the apartment and transferred them to the trailer. At the very least, I felt I was doing something about it. I saw a difference in Kathy around this time. Although she had been acting more respectfully towards me, I felt it was too little, too late. I thought I needed a break too, so she continued to go on company trips after work. One night, I got ready right as she was leaving. After staring at me, she asked about my destination. All I said was, meeting with some buddies? You wouldn't like the shop talk, and you don't know them. I interrupted her as she started asking additional questions. She used to say exactly this to me whenever I asked if I might accompany her on office trips. All right, have a good time, she said, a little annoyed. I definitely will, I said. I met new people while working on the trailer and hanging out with Rye at the bar. I felt better after spending time with Rye's lovely family and friends. I also decided to cut back on my drinking because I did not want to develop any bad habits. I knew better than to drown myself in sympathy, even though it would have been so easy. At this point, Kathy informed me that she would be on business next week. She indicated that the executive team and a few department heads were leaving. When I inquired, "Who's going?" I added, "I hope you have a great time with your boyfriend," he said, staring at her. I immediately regretted saying that, as it sparked a heated fight. However, Rye had advised me that it didn't really matter. I regret not learning more about her affair partner, AP. It doesn't matter who the other guy is, Rai explained. The only thing that matters is that she chose to leave you. She ended the marriage, whether she admits it or not. Brother, facts are facts. Rai should publish a book for the betrayed. Damn it, I had the perfect opportunity to relocate completely during Kathy's business vacation. When she left, I gathered all of my valuable possessions. Clothing, laptop computers, and other equipment are all included. I did not take any shared belongings or furniture. I left a note before leaving. Initially, the explanation was extensive. But I choose to keep it brief. I wrote, "I hope it was worth it," on a sheet of paper. On top of the note, on the kitchen table, I set my wedding ring. As I departed, I felt as if a heavy weight had been lifted. I was liberated. The hurt would take time to heal, and there would be baggage to deal with, but I'd started. I needed time for myself. And to get rid of her quickly and silently. The fact that I hadn't confronted her or forced a confession didn't make me proud. I had not screamed or shouted. She did not deserve it, in my opinion. She discarded all we owned, including our intentions for the future, our goals for a home and a family. And suddenly everything was gone. There was no turning back. I owed her nothing. She could deal with the repercussions. I hadn't prepared anything or contacted a lawyer. I just wanted a fresh start and some clarity. The air from the highlands was exactly what I needed. When I entered my trailer, I resumed running the following week, and it felt amazing to be alive. Kathy texted something like, "We just landed. We're having a team dinner," and so on, while she was gone. "Where are you?" was the question in a couple emails. "Why haven't you gotten back to me?" I didn't respond. When she arrived home, my phone exploded with calls and texts. She kept attempting to contact me, but I ignored her. Her mother also attempted to call me after the first day. But I did not pick up. She did not attempt to engage my father. Because we're not close, he is the only family member I still have. Her communications became increasingly frantic after being ignored for a week. "What is this?" This was one of the texts she sent. "We must speak. I'm not sure what you believe you know, but nothing is happening. There isn't an affair going on." After a week of not responding, she eventually texted me and said, "I apologize. Things got out of hand. It didn't matter if I was involved with someone at work. You were missing frequently while I was engaged with my work. I simply made a mistake. I intended to end it. A mistake. I was waiting for this confession all along. However, it simply served to increase my dislike for her. Why was she unable to be honest? I had no fantasies about a future with this woman. Errors do not last for 6, 8, or 12 months. Her pleadings for me to return and work on the marriage were increasingly sad. I refused to respond to her. Even though she had quit bothering me for a few weeks, I did not want her to learn where I lived. Or to probe into my life. I did not want this woman to damage my haven. Then she started sending abusive texts like this. "You're a coward. One day you refused to speak to me. You have no regard for us. Come home, please, so we can discuss. You're where I'm able to visit you, Paul. Please let's chat and make things right, damn it." However, I don't recollect all of the texts. They all seem to be excuses. With minimal genuine regret. In one ear, I let them go, and out the other. After a while, I changed my mobile number. Update, June 2018. I got an email from Kathy. She informed me that she had hired a lawyer. I was planning to file for divorce. I simply said, "Okay. That sounds good." This resulted in a flood of emails. Requesting that I visit her, among other things. She wrote that she will quit bothering me if I agreed to an uncontested divorce. Upon recognizing that this would not work, and when I gave my consent, I was actually liberated. A few months after I moved out of our apartment, I never had to see her again. She appeared to care more about that than I did. Even though neither of us had found closure. I'd occasionally think of her for a few months, and, indeed, anguish would suddenly come to me. Like when I heard a song that we used to like. However, over time, I just stopped thinking about her. Update 2. Now that I am officially divorced, things are going well. In fact, I got to know a great girl. Just down the hill from my home, I was running along the trail. When I assisted her in replacing a flat tire, we hit it off. Despite being a few of years younger than me, she is fantastic, and really cute. She refers to me as her mountain man. And loves my way of life. Although I am not in a rush to commit, I also do not intend to give up on women completely. I have no intention of leaving the trailer anytime soon. I adore being outside and have simplified my life. It made everything easy for me, including my pain and ex-wife. I understand that everyone responds differently to these situations. I was lucky to be in the 3rd year of my marriage, and not yet a parent. I feel I behaved in my best interest. You do not have to spend your entire life with a cheater. If you encounter something similar, avoid overthinking it. Continue to live your life. It will improve as you become more proficient. I hope that everyone has the best possible life. I updated this about 5 times to make it readable. And I just wanted to inform you on my ex-wife's condition. I was scared that my ex-wife was trying to find me. As I mentioned in an earlier post, I left our former residence, which was around 2 hours away. I saw her last weekend at a coffee shop. I frequently visit the town close to my home. It did not seem like a coincidence to me. Fortunately, I was able to slip away before she noticed me. 3rd update. I went to town this past weekend to acquire groceries. And I stopped at my usual coffee shop. I was using their free internet. Work on some papers for work. I finished and walked out of the cafe. I was on the way to my pickup when I heard someone shouting, "Paul!" When I turned and looked across the street, I saw Catherine. My ex-wife waved at me. Finally, Armageddon arrived. She hurried across the street to me. I stood there in disbelief as if anticipating a hug. She walked up and extended her hand. I halted her in her tracks by instinctively holding out my arms, palms up. She appeared to be in tremendous discomfort. Then she continued, "I've been looking for you, Paul. I've wanted to see you since I learned you moved here. Could we have a conversation?" Guys, I felt like an animal locked in a cage. Yes, I did. All right, let us find a table or something, and we may speak for a minute. I finally gave in. She asked if we might come to my house. I vehemently refused. By the end of the street, she brought me down to a bench outside a tiny store. She began by noting how much I had changed, and how much she adored my new look, beard and degree of fitness. She exclaimed at how much my body had transformed. Wearing a tank top and little white shorts, and her hair in a ponytail, which I used to enjoy, she was definitely working the charm. I had my radar set to high. She was plainly trying to activate the sex appeal. I needed to restrain myself so I could see where this was going. She started by claiming she was sorry for the affair. She said that after I left, karma had a significant impact on her. When her employer discovered the romance, the scene grew really tense. She eventually resigned. Her affair partner, AP, who was then engaged, received criticism and was reassigned to another area within the organization. She responded by telling his fiancé the truth. After he accused her of everything, this forced them to split up. This is when she bowed her head and started to cry. I did not say anything. I just sat there, looking around. She stood up straight and gazed at me for a long. "What do you want from me?" I inquired. She told me that she did not intend to have an affair. She claimed that the company's politics and positions pulled her in, and that her AP used his charm and power to corrupt her. She admitted she felt she was taking advantage of him, as much as he took advantage of her. After I accused her of cheating, she indicated that she had planned to come clean. She drank after work to relieve the shame she felt at the time. She detested herself. She remarked that she felt really dumb, so alone, and as if her heart had burst with grief shortly after I left. She discontinued her friendship with her AP immediately. She believed she needed to find me to determine whether there was any hope of reconciliation. Because I refused to speak with or contact her, she desired a fresh start. She hoped we could start again. Even though she knew we were divorced, I merely looked at her. Then I handed it to her. "You have no right to come out here and attempt to fix all the damage you've caused. Do you think I'll forget everything you did to end our union? As I have mentioned, we're done. If you cheated, forgiveness is not an option. This relationship will not be re-established. You killed it the moment you left me. You ruined everything we owned. How foolish do you think I am? One evening, I saw you enter a hotel with him. Were you aware of that?" I realized that people were beginning to notice. That my voice had become louder. She grabbed my arm and began crying. After letting her cry on my shoulder for a time, I pushed her away. "I deserve all of this," she said, looking up at me. "I'm confident I do. If nothing else, would you let me take you out to dinner?" "I'd rather not go. I'd like to chat further. I want to ensure that we are completely upfront about everything. You should spend more time with me than you have in the past. Please, Paul, I love you very much. Even though I understand you may not want to hear it. Before you went, I had no idea how much I loved you. You broke me just as much as I broke you. I am unable to forgive myself. And I don't want to, until I die. She began sobbing uncontrollably and hyperventilating. I picked her up and hugged her. It seemed like my only choice for comforting her. I knew then that I had wrecked her heart as much as she had broken mine. Walking, we found a nice area to continue our talk. "How did you find me?" I inquired after she calmed down. "Have you engaged a private investigator?" After some thinking, she replied. "No," she said with a tiny giggle. She clarified that she had asked how things were going when she ran into Stacy a few weeks earlier. Stacy didn't say she had noticed me. Kathy pressured her to give all of the information. I had warned Stacy not to tell her. So, she was reluctant. But Kathy persevered. Stacy eventually gave up. But all she knew was that I lived nearby and visited town on her days off. She started coming here to check on me. I sort of giggled when she said that, thinking, damn, Stacy can't keep her trap shut. She reddened. We eventually opted to dine at a nice little restaurant with a patio. I made sure we didn't drink anything. I wasn't going to give her an excuse to be kind to me or claim she was too drunk to drive back. We had a good talk. I then walked her to her vehicle. She insisted that she hadn't dated anybody else since my departure, and declared vehemently that I was the one person she desired. She pressed me hard to stay longer. "No, it's still way too early for me to go down that road," I told her. She pleaded with me to return, but I did not say yes. After I gave her my new email address, I said nothing more. I responded to her request for my phone number as follows. "You'll just blow it up with texts and calls." She grieved about it. But in the end, she agreed with my decision. She agreed to send me an email with details on returning to town the following weekend. Before she went, I questioned her directly. "Would you have forgiven me if I had been the one cheating?" Before getting into her automobile, she said, "Yes, in time. But only if we met with a marriage counselor and worked through the recovery process. With a lot of chatting. Perhaps even a binding agreement." She paused to reflect. "All right, maybe I could do that in 5 or 10 years, came my reply. "I'd wait if that's what it takes," she said. She then grasped both of my hands on her own, looked me in the eyes and said, "God damn it, Paul. I'll always adore you. And I'll do anything to prove it." This statement caught me completely off guard. Her statements continued to irritate me even after she left. She had uttered them so firmly. However, I was unable to see us rejoining. Although I felt better after the encounter, I couldn't see her as a friend at the moment. Maybe a friend someday. But even that was mysterious. I returned home. I enjoyed a lengthy run. Had some beer. And considered how far I had come. Could you please assure me that she would not disrupt the peace I had established for myself? I had no idea. I had the luxury of time to think through it and gain perspective. But everything was still too vivid in my imagination. Last updated. Most likely, this will be my last update. When I first shared my experience on Reddit, the moderators kept taking it down. In summary, I avoided my ex-wife for over a year before she discovered me. She wanted to make things right and start over with us. If you expected me to be the normal beta blue pill moron and forgive her, you will be very disappointed. She expressed her love and sadness about the affair. She sent me a lengthy email last week. She volunteered to come out and spend the weekend with me once more. What's my answer? I silenced her. I told her I had no plans to make amends with her. I'm completely happy living alone, taking advantage of my remote location, and keeping it simple. At 32, I am not in a hurry to make changes. I have my own self-determination plan. And I've enjoyed the company of a few women and pals. I said that clearly in my email response. That I had no plan to reconcile, and declined to give her my phone number. I no longer know or trust you since you have made your bed. I wish the best for you. And perhaps we can become friends in the future. But not now. She was annoyed by my evasiveness, and answered in a telling manner. She admitted that she had accepted a job offer in another state. Her ultimate desire was for me to accompany her, believing that my remote work would make the transition easier. She wanted us to start again somewhere new. She wanted to visit me in person and try to persuade me. Because she was running out of time before the move. Fortunately for me, her time was up. Because I had a week of business trips planned. I'm relieved she'll no longer be in my life. She will soon realize that her time with me is over. But I still expect to receive a few more emails. She'll need to find someone else. And she might also cheat on them. To everyone reading this, make the best of your life, let go of the past. Give yourself the strength to carry on. Good luck, everyone. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so and press the notification bell. to keep informed about more shocking real-life stories happening around you. I refused to be the family's default babysitter when they planned a vacation for Mom's 60th birthday without even asking for my opinion. I, 27 female, have spent the last 5 years advancing my career as a manager at Preston Technologies, one of Austin's fastest-growing tech businesses. While my younger sisters were beginning children, I focused on moving up the business ladder. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy my job and the route I've chosen. But sometimes I worry whether I missed something along the road. No husband, no children. It's just me in my corner office, overlooking downtown Austin. It was a normal Tuesday morning when my phone rang. Lauren, 25F, appeared on the screen, and I responded while sorting through quarterly performance assessments on my desk. "Hey Ash, have you got a minute?" Lauren asked across the speaker. My youngest sister has always been the bubbly one. "Sure, what's up?" I pushed some papers aside, half listening while reviewing the figures. "So, you know Mom is turning 60 in 2 months, right?" She paused for emphasis. "Well, we're planning something special, and we need everyone to chip in." That caught my interest. "Okay, how much are we talking about?" Lauren named the figure, and I almost choked on my coffee. It was more than I'd spent on my last holiday. Which, to think of it, was 3 years ago. "I know it's a lot," Lauren quickly added. "But it's for Mom, you know?" No, it's fine," I replied, already opening my banking app. "I'll transfer it right now." "Great. Oh, and one other thing, make sure you take a week off work to celebrate. Don't schedule anything else during that period, okay?" The next few weeks passed in a whirl of meetings and deadlines. I periodically wondered what my sisters were planning with all that money. But any time I inquired, they would dismiss me with ambiguous answers. Finally, work took over. Mom's birthday slipped into the back of my thoughts. Then came Saturday dinner. We all gathered at our parents' home. Mom and Dad, my sisters, Aunt Susan and her children Nathan and Daniel, my cousins, are with their families. The familiar pandemonium of a family supper surrounded us. Dad tells the same old jokes about Texas football. Mom is fretting about everyone's plates. The typical stuff. Lauren then dropped her bomb. "So," she continued, pushing her grilled asparagus about her plate with studied casualness, "we have finally organized everything for Mom's birthday. We're going to spend a week at Mountain Pine Resort in Colorado." The table erupted with enthusiastic discussion. Mom was beaming. Dad was already discussing visiting the slopes. And my sisters were talking about which ski lines they wanted to attempt. "Why didn't anyone tell me earlier?" I said, feeling excluded. "I don't even have a ski suit, and there's barely any time to get one now." The table became too silent. Mother cleared her throat. And my stomach dropped before she opened her mouth. "Actually, honey," she began with that tone she used to ask for a favor she knew I couldn't refuse. "We were hoping you could do us all a huge favor and watch the kids while we're there." I looked at my family gathering around the dinner table, waiting for someone to chuckle. To say that all was a joke. But the stillness went on. Broken only by the faint clink of cutlery upon plates. "You want me to watch the kids?" I finally asked. "All 5 of them?" My mind began counting them off mechanically. Lauren's toddler, Noah. Isabel's baby child, Lily. Lucas and Anna are twins born to cousin Nathan. And Daniel's kid, Leo. 5 children under the age of 7. "Well, you're so good with them," Mom exclaimed, as if it explained everything. "They love their Aunt Ashley." I looked around the table again. I'm still hoping to see some comedy in someone's eyes. There was none. Just eager looks, waiting for my standard yes. "But that's not fair," I caught myself saying. My voice sounded unusual to my own ears. "I want to celebrate with everyone too. It's Mom's birthday." My middle sister, Isabella, 23F, sighed as she put down her fork. "Come on, Ashley, you will be bored there anyway. It'll be noisy and crowded." "Bored?" I said again. "How would you know if I'd be bored?" "Well," she said, exchanging eyes with Lauren. "You're wonderful with the kids. They adore you. And let's be honest, you don't need a break from family life." I felt my chest tightening. "What's that supposed to mean?" Lauren jumped in. Her voice carried the condescending tone she had honed over the years. "She just means that you do not have children or a husband to escape from, like the rest of us do. We need a break. You understand, right?" The green beans on my plate blurred as I blinked away tears. I would not give them the gratification of watching me cry. Instead, I silently pushed back my chair and stood. "Ashley." Mom's voice sounded concerned, but not enough to make me stop. Without saying anything, I grabbed my purse from the counter and headed for the door. Nobody tried to stop me. Nobody yelled out. The only thing I heard was Mom's voice floating from the dining room. "Don't worry, she'll be a little offended at first, but she'll come around, she always does." As I proceeded towards my car, their voices faded behind me, already talking about ski slopes and winter gear. The evening air felt crisp against my face, helping to cleanse my mind. 10 years. 10 years of putting others first. Of being the accountable party. The reliable one. And this is what I received in return. The worst aspect wasn't the babysitting request. It was the casualness with which they believed I would agree. The way they organized this entire event without me. Using my money, my time, my vacation days. Without even asking. As if I were simply a resource to be utilized. Not one member of the family will be included. I spent half a night pacing around my downtown flat. Replaying every family meal, every holiday, every time I put aside my own needs to assist another person. The memories came flooding back. Each is taking on a new, darker meaning in light of tonight's events. At 16, I was cooking dinner as Mom helped Isabella with her homework. At 18, I turned down a spring break trip with friends to watch Lauren while our parents went on a weekend excursion. At 21, Isabella worked 2 jobs in college to help pay for her prom dress. Images kept coming, every year, sacrifice after sacrifice. "Ashley, can you watch Noah for a few hours?" Lauren's voice echoed in my mind. "I really need a break." "Ashley, would you mind taking the twins for the weekend?" Nathan's familiar request came back like a broken record. "Sophia's overwhelmed, and you're so good with kids." I had always answered yes. Always. Even though I had critical meetings the following day. Even though I was fatigued from my own work week. I took pride in being the reliable one, the responsible sister, the perfect daughter. I sank on my couch, the leather cool against my skin. The photo albums on my coffee table drew my attention. On family vacations, I was always the one behind the camera. Holiday celebrations in which I was constantly in the kitchen, everyone else laughed in the living room. When was the last time somebody asked me what I wanted? "It's not like you need a break from family life." Lauren's words kept replaying in my mind. As if my life, job, and decisions were somehow less valid, because I was not married with children, as if all of my sacrifices meant nothing. Because they did not suit their idea of what was important. Sleep did not come easily that night. I tossed and turned, remembering how I'd worked through college with a scholarship. I was determined not to bother my parents financially. How I started my job right after graduation, helping to put both of my sisters through school. All those late evenings at work climbing the corporate ladder, sending a portion of my paycheck home to help with family expenditures. By dawn, I had made up my mind. I wasn't a confrontational person and never had been. There had to be a way to settle this quietly. To make them comprehend without generating family strife. So I did what I had always done when there was a problem. I attempted to solve it. I waited till an acceptable hour on Sunday morning to pick up my phone. Mom responded on the 3rd ring. "Hi, Mom," I responded, my voice firm. I had been thinking about the resort trip. I actually have a solution. I will pay for a professional babysitter for all 5 children. That way, everyone may enjoy the festivities together. The silence on the other end of the telephone lasted a little too long. "That won't work, Ashley," Mom eventually stated, her voice tense. "We can't trust a stranger with our children. They are used to you." "Mom, I want to be a part of the celebration as well," I explained. "I want to be there for your birthday. I could find a great babysitter, one with excellent references." "You're not exactly a social butterfly," she interrupted me, her tone stern. "You'd probably feel uneasy with all the noise and commotion regardless. The kids will keep you occupied, and you'll enjoy spending time with them. It's ideal for everyone." Before I could react, I heard the click of the call ending. I sat there, phone still pressed against my ear. My mother's comments sank in. She had not even bothered to say goodbye. And then I realized. This was more than just a birthday excursion. It was about years of taking me for granted. Years spent expecting I'd always be available. Always answer yes. Always prioritize everyone else's needs before my own. Perhaps it was time to prove them incorrect. Update 1. I was still staring at my phone, pondering my mother's sudden hang-up. Then it buzzed again. Lauren's name flashed on the screen. "How dare you," she snarled, before I could say hello. "Mom just told me about your small proposal, considering hiring a babysitter. Are you attempting to wreck everything? Ruin everything?" I sat up taller, surprised by her harsh tone. "Why, I'm trying to find a solution that works for everyone. We've already got a solution. Lauren's voice soared. Everything is planned, Ashley. Everything. And now you're being totally selfish, trying to change all of our plans at the last minute. The accusation struck me like a slap. Am I being selfish? Yes, you are. We had been planning this for weeks. Everyone is excited. The resort is rented, and the activities are planned. And now you want to throw a wrench in everything because you can't simply do one thing for your family? One thing, I began, but she interrupted me again. What if you wreck this trip for everyone? If you spoil Mom's birthday party, don't talk to me again, Ashley. I mean it. The call went dead. I sat astonished by my baby sister's threat. Then my phone rang again, this time with incoming texts from Isabella. My hands were shaking. Family needs to stick together, her first text stated. Everyone helps each other out. Remember how I covered your work event last year while you were sick? The kids adore you. Why can't you just stop being resentful and focus on what is best for the family? My fingers rushed across the keyboard as I responded. A real family does not take advantage of one another. A real family respects each other's wishes and incorporates everyone into their activities. A real family does not manipulate or guilt trip each other. I saw the three dots emerge and disappear multiple times. However, no response came. That's when something inside of me changed. Something clicked in place. They requested for money without clarifying what it was for. They carefully instructed me to take time off work without mentioning the resort. They casually mentioned their plans at dinner, as if everything were already set in stone. They had planned this all along. While I worked late nights, while I was babysitting their children, while I was being the ideal daughter and sister, they were quietly planning this vacation. They used my money, set up my schedule, and planned to dump 5 children on me. Not a single word was spoken. And now that I was not following their script, they tried every manipulation strategy they could think of. Guilt, threats, emotional blackmail. All to force me back into the box they'd made for me. Something peculiar happens when you finally see through the haze of manipulation. Suddenly, everything is crystal clear. I felt lighter than I have in years. The shame that had been dragging me down was replaced by something else, determination. I opened my laptop and began searching. Within an hour, I'd reserved a beachside hotel in Florida. Not too fancy, but it had a balcony that overlooked the ocean. And was within walking distance of anything I might require. I even purchased a first-class aircraft ticket. I had lots of money. Since I would not be skiing. The following several days at work were remarkably tranquil. My family stopped phoning and texting. They presumably believed I was at home, getting ready for a week of childcare. Consider buying additional snacks and arranging activities. This concept made me grin. I packed my beach clothing and a new swimsuit. Going on a tropical trip in the middle of winter? My coworker Janet inquired after seeing me check the Florida weather forecast. Sometimes you need to do something unexpected, I said. I was surprised at how amazing it felt to say those things aloud. The morning of my flight, I took one final look around my apartment. I'd cleaned everything scrupulously out of habit, I suppose. The refrigerator was empty, the windows were properly locked, everything is in excellent order, as always. Except for this time. I would not be available to answer any desperate phone calls for childcare. Aunt Susan's last message appeared as I was headed to the airport. The kids are really delighted to spend time with their favorite aunt. Do not disappoint them. I felt a sense of remorse. But then I recalled, they all sat there during dinner, smiling and nodding, while basically excluding me from my own mother's birthday party. The guilt subsided. Nathan provided a thorough calendar of the twins' medication schedules and allergies. Sophia responded with a list of their favorite eats and activities. Daniel reminded me that Leo requires a particular blanket for naps. Everyone assumed I was going along with their plan, despite my obvious resistance. As I waited at my gate, more texts came in. We're counting on you, Ashley. The kids are already packed. Don't forget Noah needs his stuffed dinosaur for bedtime. I've left detailed instructions about Lily's feeding schedule. I shut off my phone and put it in my bag. No social media, no email. There's no family turmoil. Just me, the beach, and a full week of freedom. Looking out the plane window as we took off. I thought of the turmoil that will emerge tomorrow morning. When they showed up to my empty flat. Part of me felt horrible for the children. They were completely innocent throughout this. But, perhaps it was time for their parents to step up. And become actual parents. Rather than depending on their convenient single sister, as the default babysitter. For the first time in my adult years, I was choosing myself. And surprisingly, it felt right. As the plane rose higher. Austin slipped behind the clouds. And with that, the weight of everybody's expectations. I was finally free. Update 2. When I stepped out of the airport, the Florida air welcomed me with open arms. The palm trees swung with the air. Even from there, I could smell the salt of the ocean. My hotel suite was even nicer than the photographs. The balcony provided an excellent view of the limitless blue horizon. And I could hear the waves smashing on the shore. The first afternoon, I strolled barefoot on the beach, allowing the warm sand to squish between my toes. When was the last time I had done something like this? When was the last time I did something simply for myself? I swam in the hotel pool. Read a book without interruptions. We ate dinner at a small seashore restaurant. Nobody needed me to cut their food or clean up messes. I watched the sunset from my balcony, sipping a glass of wine, without a single care for nighttime or morning schedules. My final morning in Florida, I relished my last minutes of tranquility. I knew I'd have to switch my phone back on eventually, face the chaos I had left behind. But I wasn't expecting what I found. When my phone eventually started up, it started buzzing nonstop. Messages. Voicemails. I missed calls. There are hundreds of them. The timestamps showed they started exactly 1 week ago, early in the morning. My hands trembled slightly as I began to browse through them. The first messages came from Lauren. "Where are you? We're outside your house." Then Emma. "Ashley, open the door. The kids are getting restless." Nathan. "Hey, we brought Lucas and Anna like planned. Are you home?" Daniel. "Ashley, what's going on?" "Leo's asking for his aunt." As I read through the messages, I could see the scene perfectly. My sisters and cousins stand outside my empty house, with 5 confused kids. Their suitcases are packed for the resort. Their meticulously crafted plans are crashing around them. The tone of the communications altered rapidly, from bewilderment to panic. "Ashley, this isn't funny. Where are you? Pick up your phone. What are we supposed to do with the kids? You can't just disappear like this." Then rage set in. Lauren's messages became nasty. "You selfish witch. How could you do this to us?" Isabella wasn't doing any better. "I can't believe you're so immature. You ruined Mom's birthday." Aunt Susan's messages caused me to cringe. I had never seen her use that type of language before. Mom's messages began later in the day. "I'm very disappointed in you, Ashley. I never thought you'd be so selfish after everything we've done for you." Dad, who rarely texted, sent only one message. "Your mother is crying. I hope you're happy with yourself." The voicemails were terrible. I could hear the rage, disappointment, and accusations in their voices. Messages from extended family members I had not spoken with in months suddenly appeared. All of them condemned my actions. "You've always been so reliable. How could you do this to your own family? Those poor children. You've ruined everything." I sat in my calm hotel room, reading message after message, finding out what my relatives thought of me. I eventually quit being their handy solution. The words they used. They nicknamed me by these names. They made assumptions about my character. It was like meeting a completely new family, one who has been hiding behind artificial grins, and casually asks for favors. Without addressing any of them, I packed my bags and went to the airport. It was time to head home. But I wasn't the same Ashley who had gone a week before. Ashley might have apologized. You might have felt guilty. Perhaps they sought to make amends to everyone. But Ashley was gone. I had just finished unpacking my beach clothing. I heard a violent beating on my front door. Before I ever got to it, I heard a key spinning in the lock. I gave my mother an emergency key years ago, just in case. They rushed in like an angry storm. Mom leads the charge. Lauren and Isabella are surrounding her flanks. All of them had red faces and furious eyes. The serene mood I had developed in Florida vanished abruptly. Update 3. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Lauren yelled and stepped forward. "You ruined everything. Everything." I stood my ground, watching them unleash their rage in my living room, the identical living room where I babysat their children on numerous occasions. I had canceled my own plans to accommodate their crises, where I had always been the dependable one. Nathan and Daniel refused to stay with the kids, Isabella spit out, referring to their spouses. They both suddenly had important business to take care of. So Lauren had to stay home with all 5 children while we went to the resort. "She missed Mom's birthday because of you. The whole trip was ruined," Mom exclaimed, her voice rising. "No one could enjoy themselves. All we did was discuss how you betrayed us. How did you let everyone down? Your father couldn't even ski correctly. He was so upset." They continued their tirade, speaking over one another, each seeking to outperform the others. They expressed their disappointment and indignation. The longer they talked, the more ludicrous everything seemed. Until something within me broke. But not in the way they had expected. I began laughing. My chuckle sliced right through their charges. They halted in the middle of a sentence. They looked at me as if I had lost my mind. "What's so funny?" Mom demanded, her cheeks growing crimson. What could possibly be funny about this situation? I brushed away tears of laughter from my eyes. Don't you see how ridiculous this is? Do you really not understand how absurd you all sound right now? Absurd? Isabella exclaimed. You secretly planned this entire trip, I interjected, my laughing decreasing but my voice remaining calm. You opted to watch your children without asking me. You grabbed my money and told me to take time off work. And then just thought I'd go along with your intentions. Now that everything has fallen apart due to your assumptions, you're here calling me a villain. But you've always helped before, Mom remarked, her voice smaller and perplexed. You've never said no. And that's exactly the problem, I interjected. Because I constantly assisted, you started taking advantage of me. You stopped seeing me as a daughter or sister and instead saw me as free childcare. You stopped thinking about my feelings, plans, and life. That's not true, Lauren argued, but her voice was unsure. Really? I asked, raising an eyebrow. So, why didn't you include me in the planning? Why didn't you ask whether I wanted to go to the resort? Why did you imagine I would be content to stay behind with 5 children while everyone else celebrated? I observed their expressions, trying to see any awareness or understanding of how they treated me. Instead, I noticed their expressions hardening. You're being selfish, Mom replied, her tone icy. You wrecked my birthday and damaged your sisters. You have disappointed the children. This is not how I raised you. No, Mom. You're the ones being selfish. This entire situation is your fault, not mine. Mom drew herself up to full height, her visage stone-like. If you feel that way, perhaps I no longer have a daughter named Ashley. If that's what you want, Mom, I responded gently. Then so be it. It had been 6 weeks since the final encounter in my living room. 6 weeks of silence. Broken only by the occasional post in which one of my family members makes another barely disguised statement on social media. Some people only think about themselves, Mom wrote last week. It was followed by a dozen sympathetic responses from relatives and family acquaintances who only knew her side of the tale. Family should always come first, Lauren said yesterday, with a photo of her son. So blessed to have people in my life who understand what that really means. Isabella's newest was a lengthy paragraph. Refer to toxic people who destroy family bonds with their selfishness. She did not tag me, of course. Everyone knew who she was talking about. Several months ago, these posts would have destroyed me. I would have spent hours creating responses in my mind. Losing sleep because of their words. I wonder if they were correct. What about now? I just scrolled past them, sometimes with a tiny smile. Look how predictable they've become. I adjusted my regimen. Instead of spending my weekends waiting for emergency childcare calls, I have joined a neighborhood book club. The initial meeting seemed strange. Sitting in a coffee shop on a Saturday morning, I knew my phone would not ring with a desperate plea from one of my sisters. Last week, I scheduled another vacation. A journey to Europe in the spring. I didn't need to verify anyone's schedule. Alternatively, ensure that it does not interfere with the demands of others. I just spotted a decent price and took it. Occasionally, in peaceful moments, I think of my nieces and nephews. I miss them. But not in the way they were wielded against me. I hope that when they grow older, they will understand. Maybe. Perhaps they'll see the same patterns in their own lives. Make a new choice. I still have the emergency key Mom used that day. I should probably send it back. But something stops me every time I think of it. Perhaps a part of me hopes that one day, they will understand. That they'll realize how unfair their behavior and demands were. How they took advantage of my feelings for them. That kids would know that being a family does not entail sacrificing oneself to suit the needs of others. But I am no longer waiting for that day. I am not putting my life on hold. I hope for their acceptance or understanding. For the first time in my life, I am putting myself first. And it feels right. Yesterday, I removed the family group chat from my phone. I did not make an announcement or attempt to explain myself. I simply calmly withdrew myself from one more commitment. An additional cause of stress. Some may term this selfishness, my family certainly does. But I've discovered that there is a distinction between being selfish and having self-respect. Sometimes the healthiest thing to do is step away from folks who don't see your worth. beyond what you can accomplish for them. As I relax in my peaceful abode, looking over travel guides for my forthcoming European journey, I've realized something. The silence that previously seemed so threatening. It now feels like liberation. The empty gaps on my calendar that used to cause me anxiety. Now it feels like there are possibilities. I'm not just the dependable aunt, the perfect daughter, or the helpful sister any longer. I am Ashley. And for the first time in my life, that seems like enough. On Thanksgiving, they voted me out of the family. I responded with a folder detailing over $78,000 in support and years of being used. Everyone cheered. I laughed gently and replied, "Then I guess you won't need this." I put a folder on the table. The moment she opened it, she screamed. "Before we carve the turkey," Natalie remarked, rising from her chair with a smug, contrived look, "there's something we need to say." Everyone became quiet. Fork stopped in midair. My stomach constricted. I recognized that tone. It was the same one Mom used to ground me at 14, for a party I didn't even attend. "We had a family vote," she explained, looking around at everyone like a pageant queen about to be crowned. "And we've decided you're not family anymore." Silence. Then there was some cheering. Cheering. My cousin Laura applauded as if she were at a concert. Uncle Mitch raised his wine glass in toast. Even my mother laughed and remarked, "Well, someone had to say it." I sat there paralyzed, staring at the plate. The stuffing had cooled, but my blood was boiling. My father did not even glance at me. He just sipped his beer and murmured, "It's probably for the best." "Wow," I murmured, carefully pushing back my chair. "You guys actually rehearsed this?" Natalie smiled wider. "You've been toxic for years. We're just finally done pretending." "You're not family," my mother explained, going for the cranberry sauce as if we were talking about the weather. "It's unanimous." I looked around. Nobody spoke up. Not a single person. "Good," I replied gently. Then I reached into my backpack. "I figured this might happen," I said, taking out a thick folder and carefully setting it in the center of the table. The sound it made, a thunk, cut through the laughs. Natalie blinked. "What is that?" I grinned and leaned back in my chair, folding my arms. "Why don't you find out?" She grabbed it and ripped it open, her mouth twisted into that sarcastic little sneer she always wore when she believed she was winning. Then she turned the first page and stopped smiling. Her face became pallid. Her eyes scanned the following page, and the next. Then she shouted. I meant to yell. Like a blood-curdling, horror movie scream. Her chair smashed behind her, and she jumped upright, slamming the folder close as if it had burned her hands. "You monster," she exclaimed. "You messed up, twisted weirdo." Gasps resonated across the table. Joel, her husband, grabbed the folder and opened it. Then, his mouth fell. He stared at me. "Is this?" I nodded once. "It's all real," I said. Every word. Every receipt. Every screenshot. The table became dead silence. You could hear a fork clink in the kitchen. My mother's mouth opened and closed repeatedly, like a fish struggling for oxygen. "You were so sure I wouldn't fight back," I murmured, carefully getting up. "So sure I'd stay the quiet one, the doormat, the cash cow. But guess what?" I leaned over and stared Natalie dead in the eyes. "Your little show? It's over. You want to know what was within the folder? I will get there. But first, let me explain how we got here." Natalie did not wake up one day and realize I wasn't her family. That conclusion was made over many years. Brick by brick. Comment after comment. Betrayal upon betrayal. I was never their favorite, not even close. Natalie was the star. The golden girl. Good grades. Big smile. I knew how to work a room. She could lie directly to someone's face and have them appreciate her for it. I, on the other hand, remained quiet. Private. I didn't require attention, and they despised that. They saw my quiet as weakness. I moved out at the age of 19. I paid for college myself. Worked 2 jobs. Never sought for assistance. Meanwhile, Natalie failed 2 majors. She traveled to Europe to find herself. Then she returned home and married Joel, the human equivalent of a LinkedIn profile in a blazer. What about the wedding? I paid for half. My parents couldn't afford it, but they managed to book a 2-week trip shortly after. I did not complain. I never did. Even when they joked that I was the family accountant, I continued to assist. Paying for Dad's dental surgery. I sent money when Mom claimed the heat bill was past due. Even financing a portion of my cousin Laura's tuition when she was waitlisted for a scholarship. They constantly said, "Thank you? Sure?" But with that tone. The person who said, "Well, of course you'd help. You don't have a family of your own." And perhaps it is what caused it. See, I am single. No children. No spouse. There's no drama. It's just myself, my work, and my dog. And in their minds, that meant I had nothing better to do than subsidize their disasters. Natalie treated me like I was her personal failsafe. When did Joel lose his job? She called me first. Just a small loan. When did her automobile break down? You make 6 figures? What's 2 grand? When her child required therapy but her insurance didn't pay it. Yeah, guess who she called? I was always willing to help. Always. Because I persuaded myself, it was family, but helping became an obligation. Then comes expectancy. Then comes demand. It started little. Dinnertime jokes have a double meaning. "Oh, you brought wine. Must be nice to afford good wine. Of course you're early. You have no kids to worry about. I wish I could work late every night and avoid my husband too." Then things grew uglier. "You're so cold. Maybe that's why you're still alone. You don't understand real stress. You don't have a real life. You're just bitter that no one needs you. Except, they needed me. Constantly. Financially. Quietly. Behind closed doors." Then came the text. "Natalie. Hey, can you co-sign for a small business loan? Joel and I want to start a wellness cafe." Me. "No." Natalie. "Wow. Really?" Then came the quiet. "That happened 3 months ago. Since then, I've received the cold shoulder. Mom stopped phoning. Dad sent one-word responses. Nobody invited me to the last family meal. Natalie blocked me on social media after I shared a story about shutting out harmful people. But I didn't sulk. Instead, I began retrieving receipts. Literal receipts. See, I keep records. Bank transfers. Emails. Screenshots. Dates. I am not stupid, and in the last 5 years alone, I've sent almost $78,000 to various family members. $78,000? $8,000 for Joel's rehabilitation. Natalie's emergency dental work cost $2,300 and turned out to be elective veneers. $1,500 for my father's back surgery. $12,000 for my mother's credit card debt. $6,000 for Laura's college move-in expenses. $4,500 for a family emergency that turned out to be a trip to Cabo, and not just once. None of them offered to pay me back. They just took. And when I stopped providing, they assumed I was the problem. So, I created the folder. All transfer confirmations are included. Every email and SMS demanding funds. Natalie accused me of being deceptive in front of her friend after I declined the loan. A chronology of every large payment I've made over the previous 5 years. And, to top it all off, copies of their mocking Facebook and Instagram posts about me. I have screenshots of Natalie calling me a cash cow with no spine, in a private comment thread that she was unaware I had access to. So, yes. That is what she noticed when she opened the folder. That is what made her scream. Natalie was not only exposed, she was dismantled. Fact by fact. Line by line. Page by page. Meanwhile, the rest of the family discovered what they had done. My mother looked like she was about to faint. "Joel?" He gazed at the line that read, $4,200 to cover Natalie's credit card used at a hotel in Santa Monica with someone named Alyssa. And merely said, "What is this?" I didn't respond. I did not have to. Because for the first time, I was not protecting myself. I was simply showing them the truth. "You kept records?" my mother finally asked, her voice trembling. "Of everything?" I turned to her, calm as always. "You never remembered. So someone had to?" Natalie was still standing. Still pale. She clenched her hands at her sides. Her gaze darted to Joel. To me. "Go to the folder. This is a violation," she said. "You had no right to—" "No, right?" I replied, carefully rising up. "You just stood in front of this whole family and declared me not family. You all clapped. And now you're upset that I came prepared." Joel turned another page in the folder. "What's this about Santa Monica?" he questioned, his voice tense. Natalie's head snapped toward him. "Don't start." "Who's Alyssa?" he inquired. "Why were you at a hotel for 3 nights on my credit card?" Her silence was louder than any response. "Wait," my mom interrupted, bringing her palms up. "Can we all just calm down and be reasonable?" "Sure," I replied. "Let's be reasonable. Let's talk about the time you called me a parasite, while cashing the check I sent you. She blinked. That's not fair. We were under stress. No, I snapped. You were stressed, and I always bailed you out. And when I say no, I suddenly become the enemy? My father, who had been silent until now spoke up. You're making this into something bigger than it is. I turned to face him, and my voice lowered. You've let them do this to me for years. You knew. You saw it. You've heard it. And you let it happen because it was easier than confronting them. He did not refute it. Natalie slapped her hand into the table. You're just bitter because no one needs you anymore. Wrong, I replied bitterly. I am not bitter. I'm finished. She gave a sour laugh. You're pathetic. Do you know how dramatic this all looks? Bringing a folder? Printing screenshots? You think this makes you the victim? You're just proving you're a control freak. And you're just proving, I said, that you only cared about me when I was paying your bills. You don't get to play the martyr, she yelled. You chose to help. You didn't have to. And yet somehow, I murmured, going forward. You expected it every single time. Until it was no longer helpful, but rather an obligation. And when I stopped, you voted me out. My voice cracked, not from grief, but from wrath. You did not want a brother? You wanted a wallet with legs. Joel stood up, holding the packet. Is this true? He inquired, glancing at Natalie. All of this? Natalie glanced at him, and for the first time, she didn't respond. There are no phony tears. No deflection. There's just silence. You lied to me, he stated. About the hotel, the money, and him? You made it sound like he was insane. I had to, she exclaimed. He was turning everyone against me. I wasn't, I said. You did that all by yourself. The room became quiet again. Then my mother leaned forward and tried again. Her voice softened. Honey, we may have overreacted, but it's still family, and families quarrel. Let's put this behind us. I shut her off. You're not hearing me. She blinked. What? I am not seeking for peace. I am not asking for forgiveness. I am telling you, I'm finished. Natalie scoffed. Oh, stop pretending like this is some big moment. You've said that before. I looked her dead in the eye. Not like this. I reached into my coat pocket and took out another envelope. What now? My father inquired, obviously fatigued. I tossed it on the table. Joel snatched it before it slid away. He opened it, read the first line. His eyes expanded. What is this? He murmured. I responded for him. Power of attorney documents for mom were revoked. Medical proxy, revoked. Emergency contact information has been removed. I've already signed the paperwork. I am no longer legally or emotionally liable for any of you. My mother gave a gasp. You're cutting ties? Completely? Completely, I replied. Starting now. You're being selfish, she replied, tears welling up in her eyes. We made mistakes, but we're still your family. I turned to face her, and my voice fell again, calm, final. Number you're not. I grabbed my coat, took one more look at them before walking out the door. Leaving them in the midst of Thanksgiving dinner. Stunned and speechless. Surrounded with cold food and unpleasant truths. I walked out. And I did not look back. Not because it wasn't painful, it did. But when I closed the door behind me, stepped off their porch, and entered the cold night air, I felt something move within of me. For the first time in years. I could breathe. I didn't drive directly home. I pulled off the road near a lake I used to frequent as a child. Where Dad used to go me fishing. I sat there, silent. Looking out at the quiet water. And I experienced something I hadn't felt in a long time. There's nothing grabbing my attention. There is no guilt. There is no pressure. No one is waiting for a check, or a ride, or a favor. Only quietness. The next morning was silent. The following day, nothing happened. But on the third day the texts began. First, my mother. A missed call. Then another. Then a voicemail. You really mean it? We were angry, but we're still your family. I did not respond. Natalie then sent text messages. You don't even realize what you've done. Joel's filing for divorce. Are you happy? Something is really wrong with you. Then my father. You went too far. We all said things we regret, but what you did was nuclear. Your mother is a wreck. Come fix this. I did not respond to any of them. And honestly, I expected to feel guilty. I imagined myself tossing and turning at night, wondering if I had gone too far. But instead, I slept better than I have in years. There was no more second guessing each text. Stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. No more late night Venmo solicitations or guilt trips posing as emergencies. For the first time in decades, I could hear myself thinking. I began waking up early. Going on runs. Making coffee slowly. I made appointments that I had put off for years. Dentist, doctor, even a psychotherapist. Not because I was broken, but I was now free to care for myself. I rewrote my emergency contacts. I removed my parents. I changed my passwords. Froze all joint accounts they had access to. I blocked Natalie on all platforms. It wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about coming to a close. A week after Thanksgiving, I received a text from Laura, my cousin who clapped when they voted me out. I didn't know you paid for my tuition. I'm sorry. I followed the crowd. You were always the one who actually helped. I didn't respond. But I reread it twice. Then another surprise. A message from Joel. I filed the papers. Everything in that folder checked out. She cheated. Lied. Manipulated. Not just you, me too. He added. You did the right thing. I should have left sooner. I wasn't expecting that. But it landed. A few days later, I did something I hadn't done for years. I applied for a job in a different city. Not because I'm running, but I was finally free. No more. You should stay close to home. No more. Who will take care of them if you leave? I began reconnecting with friends I had not seen in years. People I'd withdrawn from since I was always preoccupied with family matters. And the wildest part? Some of them saw my message on Reddit. They contacted out simply to say, "We're proud of you." That was brave. Nobody asked for money. No one made me feel guilty. Nobody tried to spin it. Simply support. Simple, honest, clean. Somebody asked me, "Don't you regret it?" I thought for a second. Vince said, "I only regret not doing it sooner." I assumed that was it. And in a way, it was. But with individuals like them, nothing ever goes well. Especially as kids begin to feel the effects of your absence. The first several weeks following Thanksgiving were peaceful. Beautifully and frighteningly calm. No calls. There is no guilt. Just peace. Until Christmas. On December 22nd, I received a text message from my mother, just a photo. This was their living room. Dressed in stockings. A half-decorated tree. Front and center, a large empty space where they normally stack the presents. "It doesn't feel the same without you," the caption read. "Ellie constantly wonders why Uncle is not coming this year." I stared at it for quite a while. No apologies, no ownership, just the same manipulative tone. "Look at what you've done. Take a look at who you are harming." I didn't respond. Natalie tried phoning on December 23rd. I let it ring out. She then sent a message. "I realize I messed up, but you don't have to punish everyone. Please come by for Ellie. She misses you." 2 minutes later. "Additionally, Mom and Dad are behind on their mortgage. I understand you don't care anymore, but the bank called today. I assumed you would want to know." There it was. The request. Always wrapped in a cloak of guilt. It was always coated with faux tenderness, but it always concluded with a request. I blocked that number. On December 24th, Dad sent another text. "You made your point. We get it. But that is plenty. We need assistance. We are still your blood." That night, I sat alone by the fireplace, drinking a glass of wine. I gazed around my tiny apartment. There was no tree or noise, just me in the solitude that they said would ruin me. And for the first time in my life, I felt grateful for the silence. But it did not end there. In January, I received a call from an unfamiliar phone number. I took it up out of habit. "Is it Daniel?" a man's voice inquired. "Yes." "Who is calling?" "My name is Mark," he said. "I am phoning on behalf of your father. He added that you are the chief executive of the family trust." I froze. I removed the job 2 months ago. I stated that it was finalized by the family attorney. My name is not on anything. The man stopped. "I see. Your father stated that he was unable to contact you directly and requested that I investigate options in that situation." Of course they were. Natalie and my parents had run out of choices. The ATM was closed. The safety net was gone. They were now striving to be inventive. I hung up without saying another thing, but the last straw came in February. I received an envelope in the mail. Handwritten. There was no return address, but I immediately recognized my mother's handwriting. Inside was a 3-page letter. The first page was all about regrets. We said things in fury. You have always been the strong one. We never understood how much we relied on you. The second page addressed guilt. Your father's health is not good. Natalie is utterly alone now. We're concerned about Ellie. She's struggling. The third page was the hook. We are selling the house, but we are underwater on our mortgage. We only need a little aid to get through this. Then we won't ask again. Please, Daniel. Do it for your father. Do it for the family. I sat with the letter for a long, allowing myself to experience everything they wanted me to feel. The weight of responsibility, the pain of obligation, and the desperate need to repair what was damaged. Then I folded the letter, got up, went to the kitchen, and threw it away. The truth is that they weren't asking for assistance. They were requesting access again. They did not want me back in the family. They wanted the version of me who refused to say no. The person who paid quietly, sacrificed quietly, and suffered silently. But that version of me is no longer here. I'm no longer their scapegoat. I am not their golden goose. I'm not the duct tape that keeps a broken house together. I am finished. The most alarming element for them is that I can function without them. I received a new job and relocated to a new location with a larger space and a fresh start. I began helping on weekends, not because anyone needed me, but because I wanted to. I created a life in which no one phones me at 11 p.m. to cover up a mistake they refuse to admit, and I am not punished for being independent. Where kindness is not exploited as leverage. I don't regret aiding them, but I do regret taking so long to stop. You want to know what true tranquility feels like? It's not about being surrounded by family. It means being rid of those who only refer to you as family when they need something. Update. Months later, I doubted this post would receive attention. Honestly, I just needed to say it and put it somewhere, but I read every single remark. The individuals who said you were brave do not deserve you. Thank you. I had no idea how much I needed to hear that until I actually did. And of the few who inquired, what if they change? I've also asked myself that question. It's been several months now. They did not change. After I cut them off, after the folder, after the yelling, stillness and letters, I hoped that someone would get it. That they would reflect. That they'd say, "We're sorry." They did not. They became quiet for a bit. Then they became strategic. Then they became desperate. Then they turned nasty again. But I got free. Since then, I've moved. I have a job that does not keep me up at night. I started therapy, real therapy. The kind when you stop attempting to fix everyone else and instead learn to sit with yourself. I cook for myself now. I sleep better. I go outside more. I don't flinch when the phone rings. And yes, I do think about Ellie, what she's being taught, and what she'll grow up believing is normal. But I also know this. I am an example of someone who has finally had enough. A few days ago, I received another handwritten note from my mother. It was 3 words. We are still family. There is no context, apology, or change, just the same old hook. And for the first time, I felt nothing. There is no rage or despair, just nothing. I threw it away and prepared dinner. So I'm returning here because this place provided me with unexpected insight. Strangers saw me more clearly than my own blood ever could. So, here's my question. Did I do the right thing by cutting them off, decreasing the weight, and saying no with conviction? Was I too chilly, or was I tired of being the only one holding everything together? I don't know. But I know this. For the first time in my life, I am not surviving. I am living. Thank you for reading. Still listening. My grandfather left me a pocket watch worth over $55,000, but my sister stole it and secretly sold it to her boyfriend's father. My grandfather, a superb watchmaker, ran a little shop for 45 years. His most valuable possession was a custom pocket watch that he made himself. It's gold with intricate engravings and has been featured in several horology journals. The watch features a distinctive double-case design with our family crest engraved on the inner case, and the mechanism inside contains significant breakthroughs made by my grandfather over his career. My grandpa always said that the watch would belong to the first grandson who pursued a career in engineering, because he considered engineering as the modern evolution of his art. I studied mechanical engineering, worked hard in college, and even took watch repair lessons in his memory. In my final year of university, I prepared a thesis on the evolution of watchmaking processes, using my grandfather's techniques as a case study. He attended my graduation and told everyone at the celebration lunch that I would carry on his legacy. When my grandfather died 5 years ago, my entire family decided that the watch would be passed down to me in accordance with his wishes. The trouble arose when my sister withdrew the watch from our grandfather's possessions before they could be properly divided. She offered to help clean up his house as I was preparing for the memorial event. When I questioned about the watch later, she claimed her grandfather discreetly informed her that he had changed his mind and wanted her to keep it because she appreciated beautiful things and had an eye for artistry that I allegedly lacked. This made no sense considering what he had said over the years, but I didn't want to stir up unnecessary controversy during this terrible time. Last month, I learned that my sister had sold the watch to her boyfriend's father, an antique watch collector. She did not tell anyone in her family. I recently found out since the boyfriend's father posted his excellent acquisition on a watch collector's website that I frequent. He described getting it from his future daughter-in-law and shared pictures of my grandfather's watch. He provided technical details about the movement that confirmed it was built by my grandfather. When I challenged my sister, she shrugged and said it was just dust in my drawer, but at least someone is using it now. I explained to her that the watch was intended to stay in our family and represent our grandfather's legacy. She continued, "Well, it is done now, perhaps you should have spoken up sooner." I called the buyer and explained the problem, but he refused to return it, claiming he paid a fair price and the transaction was legitimate. He pushed me to work things out with my family and not involve him in our disagreements. I then attempted to barter with my sister about splitting the money she received, but she said she needed it all for a down payment on an apartment with her boyfriend. When I asked her about the watch's familial significance, she sneered and replied, "Oh please, it's just a thing. Grandfather is gone and doesn't care what happens to his stuff anymore." After getting nowhere, I consulted with a lawyer, who believes I have a strong case based on documented family understanding of my grandfather's wishes. Several family members have witnessed him express his intentions for the watch several times throughout the years. I've filed a lawsuit against both my sister and the buyer. My sister is telling everyone that I am an expletive who is trying to ruin her life over a watch. She has claimed on social media that I am consumed with material possessions and attempting to impede her future happiness. My parents differ. My father believes I am correct in fighting for my inheritance, whilst my mother says I should give it up to protect family harmony. She keeps saying that your grandfather would not want to see his family split up like this. Several relatives, including my aunt, have messaged to say they remember grandfather's wish vividly and will testify if necessary. AITA for going to court rather than admitting it's gone? Additional information for those who are wondering why I did not push harder at first. I was dealing with my own sadness and did not want to add to the family's stress. I honestly believed my sister would treat the watch with respect, even if she had convinced herself it was hers. Knowing she sold it makes it feel like she sacrificed a piece of our family history and grandfather's heritage for quick cash. The watch has more than just monetary value. It represents the completion of my grandfather's effort and was meant to be passed down through generations. My grandfather spent 3 years designing and building that watch, often working late into the night to perfect each component. He viewed it as his finest. Update 1st February 2025. Thank you to everyone who responded to my initial article. The situation has altered unexpectedly, so I wanted to provide an update. After filing the complaint, I discovered further details regarding what happened. My sister didn't just take the watch off, she convinced our uncle, who was helping to sift grandfather's belongings, that grandfather had changed his mind. Uncle Mark confirmed this when I approached him about perhaps testifying. He apologized profusely, adding that my sister had informed him that Papa had approached her during his final hospital stay and expressed concern that I would not appreciate the watch's beauty and would be more interested in the mechanical aspects. She apparently informed Uncle Mark that grandfather was anxious that I might disassemble the watch to investigate its mechanism or store it rather than properly displaying and enjoying it. Uncle Mark, who understands very nothing about watches, thought this convincing enough to overturn years of hearing his grandfather's genuine preferences. This interaction supposedly happened when I was getting coffee in the hospital cafeteria. Nobody else saw it. Uncle Mark handed over the watch without more questioning since he wanted to respect his grandfather's final wishes. When I asked him why he never addressed me, he explained that he didn't want to hurt my feelings and assumed my sister would keep an eye on the family. I got statements from 3 more family members who confirmed their grandfather's initial desire for the watch to go to his grandson, who studied engineering. My cousin, who visited Papa frequently in his final months, confirmed that he mentioned the watch to me 2 weeks before his death. He even remembers his grandfather giving him a small journal in which he documented the evolution of the watch, explaining that he was keeping it for me to study when he died. After searching over his belongings, my sister noticed that the journal was missing. The litigation is moving forward, but it is costing more than I expected. I've already paid $3,800 in legal expenses, and my lawyer estimates the total would be $112,000 if this goes to trial. The watch is worth roughly $445,000 due to its unique design and my grandfather's minor celebrity in the watchmaking profession. Some collectors believe it might be worth much more because of its history and documented development process. My sister has escalated her campaign against me. She posted photos of the watch to social media with the caption, "Remember that family heirloom my brother is suing over? It looks much better on its new owner than collecting dust in some engineer's drawer." Her lover explained, "Some people can't stand seeing others happy." One of her friends said that I was jealous of her relationship and intended to damage her future. I've blocked most of these people to avoid reading hateful comments, but mutual family members continue to send me screenshots. When confronted at a family breakfast last week, my sister stormed off, alleging that I've always been jealous of her relationship and am seeking to wreck her down payment plans for spite. She said I didn't care about the watch until I found out she had sold it, which is completely incorrect. I asked about it several times after Granddad died. Our mother followed her out, and Dad and I lingered in awkward silence for 20 minutes before he suggested we go get dessert. Later that evening, my father told me that he agrees with my viewpoint but wishes there was a way to resolve this without going to court. He added that my sister has been struggling financially for the past year after losing her work during a corporate downsizing, but she has been too proud to inform the family. This does not justify her decision to sell the watch, but it does provide some background for her financial difficulties. My first court date is scheduled on March 17th. I'll update again after that. Despite the cost and family conflict, I am determined to reclaim my grandfather's legacy. If the watch cannot be returned, I would like to receive recognition that it was illegally removed and sold, as well as some form of reparation that reflects its true monetary and personal value. For those who are wondering why I am wasting money on legal expenses, the answer is that it is not about money. The watch represents my bond with my grandfather and the traditions he wanted to foster in our family. If I back out now, I risk believing that family preferences are worthless when someone decides to take advantage for personal benefit. The amount I am spending may appear disproportionate to those who are solely concerned with money, but some things are worth fighting for regardless of the cost. Update 2nd March 2025. Court proceedings have begun, and things have become messier than I anticipated. The first hearing was held on March 17th, and while no final verdict was reached, several key developments occurred. My uncle testified about how my sister persuaded him to give her the watch, admitting that he now suspects he was duped. He submitted emails shortly after my grandfather's death in which I specifically asked about the watch, contradicting my sister's claim that I had no interest in it. Two of my relatives and my grandfather's old apprentice all testified that they had heard grandfather clearly explain his plans for the watch multiple times over the years. The apprentice, who is now a great watchmaker, explained the piece's technical worth and why grandfather would have wanted it to go to someone who appreciated its technological developments. The buyer, my sister's boyfriend's father, arrived with an attorney, claiming that he purchased the item in good faith and should not be punished for family issues he was unaware of. His lawyer displayed screenshots of text messages between my sister and the buyer negotiating the sale, which revealed something quite unpleasant. My sister told him about the watch's family history and my grandfather's wishes for me, but she stated I didn't want it anymore because I had switched to digital watches. This is completely incorrect. I only wear mechanical watches out of respect for my grandfather's craft, including one he repaired while I was in college. The buyer's attorney said that even if my sister obtained the watch unlawfully, his client was an innocent third party with no reason to challenge her right to sell it. My lawyer said that the texts show he was aware of the potential complications with the sale yet went forward nevertheless. The judge became concerned about this point and requested additional evidence regarding what the buyer knew and when. My sister's testimony was full of inconsistencies. She claimed her grandfather changed his mind on his deathbed, but later revealed that he had expressed qualms about me acquiring the watch for years. When questioned for specific examples or witnesses to these conversations, she was unable to provide any except private conversations. When asked about the journal chronicling the watch's creation, she became defensive, first denying knowledge of it, then claiming it was lost during house cleaning, and finally admitting she may have misplaced it when going through her grandfather's belongings. The most shocking moment came when the financial details were revealed. My sister sold a family heirloom for less than 40% of its evaluated value, with the buyer paying $17,500 instead of $55,000 for the watch. When everything became clear, my sister broke down and confessed that she needed the money immediately, a way to put down a deposit on an apartment she and her boyfriend wanted before someone else bought it. She claimed she looked up watch prices online but was bewildered by different price models and felt she was getting a fair deal. The buyer stated that he was aware that the watch was worth more, but he believed $17,500 was reasonable because my sister needed cash immediately. When asked if he had considered the ethical implications of buying a family heirloom at a large discount from someone clearly in financial need, he stated he would have paid more but did not communicate this information with her. He said that business is business, and everyone makes their own decisions. Legal fees have already reached $7,200. My savings account has suffered substantially, but the judge is sympathetic to my case, particularly after text conversations revealed that my sister misrepresented the situation to the buyer. My lawyer believes that this will considerably help our case. Outside the courthouse, my mother finally broke the silence. Rather than supporting either side, Mom criticized both of us for destroying the family over financial issues. She then admitted that she has been suffering from health issues, which she has kept secret because everyone is too preoccupied with fighting over a blasted watch to notice. She has been attending doctor's appointments alone. This stunning news startled everyone, and my father immediately left with her without speaking to either me or my sister. I attempted to phone both parents later that evening, but received no response. My cousin later told me that Mom had been experiencing troubling symptoms for months before being tested, indicating abnormalities that necessitated further evaluation. She is scheduled for more treatments next week. The fact that she kept this from everyone while we were working on the lawsuit has caused me to reassess my priorities, but I still believe in the concept behind my case. The next court date is planned on April 8th. The judge has encouraged us to reach an agreement before then, indicating that the most equitable way would be for the buyer to return the watch in exchange for a refund for my sister. Because my sister has already spent the majority of the money, this creates an extra problem. My lawyer suggested that I provide the refund myself to facilitate the watch's return, and then pursue payment for my sister over time, essentially buying back what should have been mine in the first place. I started into this wanting justice, but suddenly everything feels more entangled than I could have anticipated. Still, I can't bring myself to give up when we're so far into the process. Additional information in response to comments suggesting that I should prioritize my mother's health before the lawsuit. Of course, she comes first. Since the revelation, I've phoned both of my parents, offered to drive my mother to appointments and assist her in any way I could. Dad has reacted with a fast SMS explaining that they require room. This case is more nuanced than just choosing between family health and possession. Both are happening at the same time, and dropping the litigation now will not magically cure the other issues that have emerged. In reality, without a clear outcome, the watch situation will likely remain stressful indefinitely. Update 3, April 12, 2025. The court case has taken unexpected turns, so I'd like to provide another update. The anticipated April 8 hearing took place, however there were some surprising developments. 3 days before the hearing, my sister's boyfriend's father, the watch buyer, contacted us through his lawyer to offer a settlement. He promised to return the watch if my sister refunded his money. Because she had spent the majority of it, he proposed a payment plan in which she would repay $500 per month until the debt was paid off. He also requested a written statement confirming that he was unaware of the disputed ownership when he purchased it. Apparently, he is concerned about his reputation in collector circles. This seemed like a reasonable choice, so my lawyer and I agreed on the terms, subject to my sister's approval. My sister did not show up to the hearing. Her lawyer arrived, very concerned, claiming that he couldn't reach her and had tried calling her since the previous evening. The judge was clearly annoyed and gave her 48 hours to appear before considering a default ruling. Her lawyer admitted off the record that he had not received full compensation for his efforts and was unwilling to continue protecting her rights without communication. Later that evening, I received a call from my sister's boyfriend. He also mentioned that my sister had packed some belongings and left their flat 3 days prior after a furious argument about the watch issue. Apparently, he persuaded her to accept the settlement offer, sparking a heated dispute over loyalty and support. He hadn't heard from her since, except for a text saying she needed time to think things through. He sounded genuinely concerned and even apologized for his father's role in the matter, admitting that he had first advocated the acquisition because it appeared to be a good business opportunity. My parents were engaged at this time, filing a missing person report after discovering that no one she knew had seen her in 2 days. My sister's location became more important than the litigation. Dad dispatched family members to explore the locations she visited, while Mom remained at home in case she called. The stress of the incident had clearly impacted Mom's health, as I noticed her hands shaking when I stopped by to check on them yesterday morning. My aunt called to let me know my sister had arrived at her home in a neighboring state. She had allegedly stayed at a motel to clear her head. According to my aunt, my sister cried for the duration of the first day and revealed that she was torn between 2 terrible choices. My aunt persuaded her to call our parents, who drove 4 hours to bring her home. They returned late last night, and Dad texted that they should all relax before discussing anything else. Today, my sister finally contacted me directly. The conversation was not what I had anticipated. She acknowledged lying about her grandfather changing his mind and selling the watch because she and her boyfriend were experiencing financial difficulties as a result of poor Bitcoin investment decisions. They had lost approximately $30,000 due to a hoax, and they were too humiliated to notify anyone. She stated that she would accept the settlement offer and work additional shifts at her job to make the payments. What stood out to me the most was her justification for running away. She stated she couldn't face everyone once her lies were exposed in court, and she felt torn between her boyfriend's desire to pursue the lawsuit and her developing belief that she had made a terrible mistake. She also admitted that seeing her mother's health deteriorate as a result of the family quarrel made her feel tremendously guilty. She spent those days pondering whether to leave town permanently or try to apologize. I told her that I was relieved she was safe and that, while I was still upset by her behavior, I was eager to find a solution. We decided to meet with our lawyers tomorrow to finalize the settlement agreement. She also stated that she believes she still has her grandfather's notepad about the watch somewhere in storage and plans to seek for it this weekend. The judge has approved our settlement arrangement. The watch buyer will return the prize to me next week, and my sister will start making monthly payments to him. I have agreed to drop all outstanding claims, including legal fees. While this means I'll have to cover the significant costs myself, the end of the legal battle is worthwhile at this moment. My mother has non-cancerous yet concerning growths that need to be checked. Dad advised me that her health problem is not necessarily life-threatening, but it does require care. The stress of familial discord has surely harmed her health. I apologized to both of them for not being more aware of what was going on and offered to assist with her care in the future. For those wondering if I feel victorious, this does not feel like a win. Getting the watch back is vital to me, but the cost has gone far beyond merely legal fees. I'm learning that my sister's activities sprang from a place of financial desperation that she was too embarrassed to admit, and although this does not excuse her actions, it does help me understand them better. We've all made mistakes along the way, and now we must decide whether family relationships are worth restoring. I believe they are. Update April 30th, 2025. It's been more than a month since my last update, and I wanted to explain how things have altered since the settlement. The watch was returned to me, as agreed. The handover took place at my lawyer's office, with both my sister and the buyer there. When I eventually handled it again, I saw several fresh little scratches on the casing, as well as a slight wobble in the crown, indicating poor handling. The buyer stated that he had taken it to a jeweler for cleaning, but the person was clearly unfamiliar with antique clocks. He seemed to really apologize for the damage. I took it to a specialized watchmaker, who could restore it to its original condition for $850. My sister has made 2 payments to the buyer so far. To meet her financial obligations, she has taken on a second job working on weekends at a local cafe. The arrangement looks to be working, albeit she claimed that the payments will take nearly 3 years to complete at the current rate. Her boyfriend first left after their fight, but returned 2 weeks later. According to my father, they are still dating but have put off preparations for an engagement or a flat. They've moved into a smaller rental to minimize costs and are gradually rebuilding their finances. My sister also discovered and returned my grandfather's notebook, which detailed the construction of the watch. It was mixed in with old college textbooks in her storage area. The notebook contains detailed designs, technical specifications, and journal entries from his 3 years working on the artwork. We've had 3 family counseling sessions. Progress has been slow and awkward. In the first session, we mostly established ground rules for communication. By the second session, my sister acknowledged that she had harbored resentment toward me from infancy because she believed our grandfather preferred me because of my engineering background. She admitted that stealing the watch was motivated in part by a desire to become the center of the family story. She recalls feeling invisible in comparison to my accomplishments and the wonderful bond I shared with my grandfather. This discovery hit me hard. I never thought about how my relationship with our grandfather would have appeared to her. While it does not justify selling a family heirloom, it did provide some context that I had not previously considered. In the third session, I realized that I probably talked too much about my projects with my grandfather, not thinking how it would have made her feel left out. We've started discussing how to honor various types of familial links rather than comparing them. My mother's health has stabilized. The prescription prescribed by the doctor seemed to be effective, and her most recent test confirmed an improvement. She began joining my father and me for lunch on Sundays, gradually re-establishing our normal family routines. Additional information for those wondering about legal fees. The total came to somewhat more than $99,000. It was a significant financial drain, but I don't regret sticking up for what was right. Mom worked multiple jobs to raise me after my dad passed away, but now my wife is pregnant and has demanded I choose between her and my mom. A little background: my mother and father were both orphans. My father died 2 weeks before I was born. My mother didn't have a support system, so it was just the two of us. I never needed anything since my mother worked her entire life to provide me with the life I have now, and she didn't even have time to start over. She completed every small task imaginable to ensure that we didn't miss anything. She went hungry in order to provide for me. I had extremely nice clothes, but she had none. I observed her make sacrifices over and again, always with a smile. To be honest, I've always assumed she was an angel disguised as a human. She only yelled at me once, when I was 16 and observed her getting sick while working. I wanted to assist her in obtaining work, but she became enraged and told me that it was not my responsibility to care for her and that it was up to her to care for me. She wanted me to achieve exceptionally good scores so I could get into the best universities. It's the only way I'll be able to protect myself after she's gone. Even at university, she did not want me to work. I had to concentrate on my schoolwork, but mother wanted me to volunteer so that I could be an adult with hands-on experience. I met my wife there while we were helping. My wife is a nice person, but she was never close to her parents or siblings, and she has admired my mother since she met her. We used to joke that she loved my mother more than she liked me. Deep down, I believe she was hoping for a link between mother and daughter that she did not have with her mother. When I finished my studies, I obtained a job, and we moved in together, but she was uncomfortable with my calling my mother every day. Remember, there were 10 to 15-minute calls, and she ultimately stopped bringing them on. 2 years later, I purchased a home for my mother, as we had never owned one. We moved from apartment to apartment, so it was the smallest sacrifice Mom made for me, and it was non-negotiable. That's where the problem began, first with my wife, then with my girlfriend. She wanted me to think about us first. I told her that my dream had always been to buy my mother a house since I was a child, and that it was what I had to do, but she protested to my mother. My mother had no idea I had bought her a property as a surprise for her birthday. She was uneasy about getting the house because of my wife, but she told me it wasn't necessary because we could use it for ourselves after we married. I was infuriated. I told my mother that the house was hers, that she could do whatever she wanted with it, but that she needed to prioritize herself first. Our love endured, we married and eventually had our own home. Our lives were going well until 2 months ago, when my mother became ill. I wanted her to move in with us so I could care for her, but my wife refused. I then decided to rent an apartment immediately next to our house with my own money so that I could be close to her and go there to care for her, but my wife was not pleased with that idea either. My wife and I don't have any children yet, we both work. I usually go home at 6 p.m., but because my mother is ailing, I go to see her and return about 8 p.m. On weekends, I see her for 1 or 2 hours and spend the rest of my time with my wife. We go on dates. I always join her in her activities, even if she never goes to mine. She told me 2 days ago that she had given it some thought and believes I place too much value on my mother. She informed me that I had to choose between my mother and the life I hope to make with her. The fact is that I never made her feel this way. We both work, but I am the one who cooks and pays someone to do the housekeeping. I make sure to do the dishes she enjoys. She had no idea what I like to eat because I never complained. I run her baths, give her massages and flowers, and I write her poetry, which I hide somewhere in the home for her to discover. We take a trip 1 weekend per month. I earn a lot more money than her. I told her to keep her money for myself, and I will take care of all the expenses, including hers. I constantly make an effort to listen to her and consider her point of view, and I believe I am easygoing because I can adjust my thinking to fit hers, but I understand she wants to completely dominate me, and the only subject on which I do not give her a choice is my relationship with my mother. So I'm going to have a conversation with her and set some firm boundaries. If she doesn't want to, we'll divorce. Update 1. Hello everyone, I keep receiving mails requesting for an update. I wanted to do it sooner but didn't have enough time to complete it properly. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who left comments and DMs on my recent article. I tried to respond to everyone but couldn't, nevertheless, I did read you all. Before addressing my wife, I had time to contemplate, and I decided that no one in my life should ever dictate the relationship I should have with my mother or the amount of time I should devote to her. So I decided to respond to the ultimatum, but first I wanted to know if there was another reason why she handed me the ultimatum. She said, "Nope." I asked her if, aside from what she blamed me for, there was anything she wanted to tell me but couldn't. She said that there was nothing and asked me to get to the point. So I told her that I wanted a divorce. She remained frozen. I believe she was shocked because she was silent. She just stared at me. I tell her everything that was on my mind, including how our beliefs are too different. My mother was ill, and I was going through one of the most difficult times of my life. We administered numerous tests to her. We still have no idea what she is suffering from. We do not know her family's medical history because she was an orphan. It makes me nervous to think that I could suddenly find myself alone in the world. Yes, I am alone in the world because all I needed in these trying times was her support, but if my own wife believes that I should pay less attention to my mother, who is unwell and needs me more than ever, it is time for us to part ways. She still didn't say anything, so I told her I was going to a hotel for the night and we'd talk about how we were going to separate later. I gathered some of my belongings and fled. When I went to see my mother the next day, she realized something was wrong, but I wasn't going to tell her I was leaving my wife because she couldn't handle our relationship, especially because she was so sick. I didn't want to make things worse for her. I never discuss my marriage troubles with my mother, so she is unaware of our problems. To be honest, she adores my wife too much, and my wife behaves as if she were her own mother, so I was not going to tell her what she was thinking behind her back. My mother ends up telling me that my wife did not come by that day. Yes, my wife, who wanted me to limit my contact with my mother, saw her every day, and I never asked her to do anything for her. She calls my mother Mom. When she was sick, she used to go to my mother, and she would take care of her. It used to bother me because I felt like I couldn't take care of her, but she explained that this wasn't the same. A mother's motives are different. I told myself it was her attempt to form a mother-daughter tie that she had never had, and I understood her. She has previously stated that her mother told her that she was not supposed to be born, that she was an accident, that she nearly aborted her and regrets not doing so. Only a monster could say such to her child, so I never said anything when she demanded my mother's attention. After all, I received enough affection to share with whoever desired my mother. After I went home to school, she became a foster mother for children, something she had always done until 2 years ago. I have always adored each of the children with whom I remain in contact and regard to be my siblings. We all went on vacation for a week every year, the kids, my mother, and my wife. I typically take 2 months of vacation, 6 of which I devote to my wife, but the 2 weeks I devote to my mother and children are too much for my wife. Anyway, I am rambling. So, when my mother told me she hadn't gone to see her that day, I hurried back home, frightened. I discovered her in the toilet, dressed and with red eyes, as if she had been crying all along. Seeing her in that state was awful. I helped her, but this proud woman crumbled in front of me, crying profusely. I'm not sure if it was an hour or 2, but she kept crying, then calmed down and cried again. I just remained silent. She eventually told me that, deep down, she never wanted me to be less involved in my mother's life. She was always jealous of our closeness. She was constantly envious of the attention my mother paid to the other children. She understands that it was not sensible, but she couldn't help but strive to be number one in my mother's heart. It was a competition for her, so when I wanted to care for my mother, she didn't want me to be the one to do it. I was furious, but I didn't say anything. I wondered if she was a psychopath or anything. We're talking about a genuinely ill person, and she's obsessed with her darn competition, even if it meant destroying my connection with my mother and putting us in a position where I wanted to divorce her. She told me she was very jealous of me and would have preferred to be in my position. If she had to pick, she would have chosen to be my mother's child over my wife, even though I was the love of her life and the only man she'd ever known. She also informed me that even if the world breaks apart around me, I will stay stoic, that I live as if I don't need anyone, and that I offer everything to others, but I don't know how to let others reach me, and she was never able to do so. Only my mother could. I didn't know what else to say. I was so caught up with the concept of competitiveness that I didn't immediately understand the extent of her comments, but I listened to her to the conclusion. I put her in bed till she fell asleep, and then I went to sleep in another room. In the morning, she was acting like nothing had occurred. She was being herself. She stated, "I don't have to pity." I assured her it was out of love. She remained my wife. She departed for work, and I did the same, but I opted to stay at the hotel for the time being. During that moment, I questioned how I could have made the saying behave so that she would think about it. Deep down, I believe she is correct. It is a protection mechanism I have had since infancy. I've never stayed in one place long enough to establish friends. It was painful every time we had to move from my 5th to my 15th year. I had moved more than 50 times from apartment to apartment, hotel room to hotel room, and I believe I have always lived my relationships in a squat. I never unpacked or settled in because I knew I could be forced out at any time, but I thought I acted differently with my wife, but apparently not. So I reasoned that perhaps we didn't need to go that far. What we needed was therapy rather than divorce. Then, a little more than a week after our conversation, I received a call from the hospital. My wife had been admitted. She reportedly was not feeling well. I went to see her, but she didn't want to see me. I've never seen so much hatred in just two eyes. I informed her best friend so she could have system support because she did not want me there. I informed my mother, and she inquired what I had done to my wife to put her in the hospital, and she advised me not to stress a pregnant lady. I asked, "What?" She told me what my wife told her and begged her to keep it a secret so she could tell me when she was ready. I'm not sure what was going through my head. Anger because it was my mother who told me, happiness at being a father for the first time, and complete astonishment at the odd circumstance. I went to tell my wife, but she looked at me angrily and told me she had lost the baby, which was my fault. In an instant, I learned that my wife was pregnant but kept it a secret from me, that I was going to be a father, that we had lost the baby, and that she was accusing me of causing something I had no idea about. She asked me to go, and I did. I always desired children from a young age. My wife preferred to focus on her work. I understood and agreed. I tried to persuade her for years but was unsuccessful. Now that she is pregnant, she doesn't tell me anything. She tells my mother about it, and she claims I caused her miscarriage. She has now stated that she did not tell me anything because she wanted to ensure that I could handle all of the obligations I assigned to myself while also raising a child. I don't understand her, and I've admitted to harboring a strong dislike for her ever since. I can't look at her without feeling angry, and I don't want to hurt her with my words. I take care of her at home, but we do not communicate. I'm not going to stay with her. That's impossible. I began seeing a psychologist, who advised me that patience was my best weapon, that I shouldn't base irreversible decisions on emotions that could be fleeting, and that I should take my time to see if there was anything to salvage. This is where I am. I'm not sure if I will do another update. I took days off to care for my wife and mother, but I'm miserable and want to go away from it all right now. In any event, thank you for sharing your thoughts on your first post, whether they were supportive or critical. Update 2. Hello everyone, it has been a while. I didn't want to post again after my last one, but even though it's been months, I continue to receive support and people wonder where I am in my life. So, I believe I owe you at least one final update because your comments and direct messages were quite helpful to me at a time when I needed them the most. I'm not sure whether it'll be long, but let's go. My wife was obviously pregnant after her miscarriage. I had to care for her because she couldn't do it alone. After what happened, all I could think of was rage and contempt, but as I previously stated, if something is fragile enough to break, you have no choice but to treat it tenderly. I didn't want her to break. I didn't want to abandon her in the most difficult time of her life, so I fulfilled my job as a husband despite everything. Her mental state deteriorated. She believed she was still pregnant and talked to herself. She became crazy one night, mistaking me for her father and believing that I was going to hurt her. I had to call the emergency room and, after an assessment, a psychiatrist urged me to have her admitted. That is what I did. She spent 6 weeks there. She was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Physicians assume she possibly has delusional condition and was severely mistreated as a child, but that's all they could tell me. She did not want to see anyone, particularly her relatives. She proposed that we connect by letters, so every time I went there, I took her letter and dropped mine the next day. It's crazy. I get the sensation that in 2 months, I got to know her better than I had in the previous 10 years, which reminded me of how nice a person she was despite her imperfections. She used to travel to help build schools, wells, and anything else that could benefit those living in poverty. She did more than just offer money. She also lent a hand. She's the type to help a foreigner who doesn't speak the language catch his train, even if it means missing her own. Honestly, she was like a gold mine, full of resources and kindness. Although we had money, we used to like traveling on public transportation to recall when we were poor and to enjoy life simply because having each other was enough. We would go without money and dare one another to see how far we could reach. It was the best moment of our life. We were so close and in love that we thought nothing could separate us. What's changed since then? We attempted to sort it out in our letters to each other, and we talked about a variety of topics. I will not go into depth. She accepts responsibility for her faults, just like I do. She fully accepts responsibility for the repercussions of her conduct. She apologized for how she treated me and acknowledged that the only conceivable outcome is a divorce. She needs to heal and improve herself. She stated she had a long way to go, which wasn't fair to me. She stated that, given her situation, I would not discuss a divorce with her. She would have to handle it herself. Some fights she must fight alone. Otherwise, she will never be her finest self. She has no idea how long it will take, but if she arrives and I haven't moved on, She'll be pleased to start over with me. I've always believed in repairing broken objects rather than discarding them, but this doesn't apply to humans. You can't fix someone unless they want to be fixed, and I wouldn't have had the strength to fix someone because I'm concentrating all of my remaining energy on attempting to fix myself. If my wife had not made the decision she did, I would have offered divorce. Paradoxically, it was because she took the decision that I saw hope for us. I then proposed a separation rather than a divorce, and if we still want to divorce after a year, we will. If we believe we can be in a healthy partnership, we will reconnect, communicate, and attempt to do things differently. She agreed, stating that was her hope. When she got out of the hospital, she didn't want us to meet because she didn't think she'd be able to stick to her resolutions. For my part, I hadn't yet let go of all the unpleasant emotions that had arisen as a result of the circumstances before her illness, so it was ultimately best for both of us. We decided to continue sending letters to one another, which is fine with me for the time being. She could see my mother. She wrote what my mother told her: despite her terrible mistakes, she will always be a mother figure to her. She did not have to strive for her love since she already had it, and that is something that will never change. She asked whether I was comfortable with her getting in touch with my mom. I told her it was up to them. She didn't need my permission. Nevertheless, she wouldn't be seeing my mother very frequently because I had decided to take my mother to one of the top hospitals in the world, which is located in Europe. About me, I've been in Germany for over a month now. We're from France, and I'm learning to delegate tasks after making a resolution in treatment. I needed therapy, and you were the ones who convinced me. I will always be thankful to you. The therapy sessions were so intense and exhausting that I didn't have the energy to do much after leaving my therapist's room, but it improved over time. I'm now working remotely. I return to France once a week to settle things at work and continue with my treatment sessions because I do not want to change therapists. I managed to devote time solely to myself, which is truly beneficial. One of my foster brothers wanted to travel with us to Germany because he too works remotely. He is a big assistance. In short, I'm getting better. About my mother. This is perhaps the most difficult thing to tackle, and I acknowledge that I don't want to talk about it, but I also believe that talking about it here will prepare me to talk about it later in life. A few years ago, we moved from apartment to apartment and hotel to hotel. This is one of the hardest periods of our lives. Because we were a single mother with a child, the state always provided us with a place to sleep. It wasn't stable because we had to change locations every time, but it was preferable to sleeping outdoors. My mother was and still is a stunningly attractive woman. She happened to receive sexual bids for an apartment right in front of my eyes. I'm not sure what she went through with my father, but she refused to be with anybody else because she believes that death does not end a meaningful relationship. There was an association that used to look after us by always providing us a place to stay the night. One of the guys in charge of finding us someplace to stay asked us to stay in his apartment while they looked for a better place for us because we were staying in an unsanitary motel. My mother didn't want to go, but I persuaded her to go since the prospect of sleeping warm in a good bed was all I could think about. But after we had supper at his house, he began making moves on my mother, who quickly stopped him. He told us it was either that or leave his house, so we left. We returned to the hotel, but our room had already been occupied. There was nothing we could do that day, so we decided to sleep outside. Trigger warning, gang RP, we were startled while sleeping by a gang of men who were attempting to RP my mother. They attacked me so hard that I was frightened to try to help my mother. Several other men who had apparently returned from a party heard the screams and rushed to our relief. The attackers fled. I always maintained that my mother was almost our pet, and I eventually believed it, but my mother was our pet right in front of my eyes. I finally admitted it. My mother had become our pet before my eyes, and I was powerless to stop it. If we had thrown ourselves into each other's arms and cried together that day, things may have been different, but she stood up, took my arm, and informed me that this spot was not safe and that we needed to look for a safer place. We never spoke about that day again. We continued with our lives as if nothing had happened. Things improved over time. She worked hard to ensure my success. She put all of her life's earnings in my project, and I now owe her the firm I founded. How did she endure the hell she'd been through? Since I accepted the fact that she was our pet, all I wanted to do was tell her about it, but it's not about me. She's the one who went through the hardest. I'd like to talk to her about it, but I'm not sure what good can come of it after so many years. That's all. As of today, her condition is improving, and the future appears better than it did a few months before. So, I believe that is all. This will be my final post. To everyone who has supported me during those difficult times, I thank you from the bottom of my heart and wish you the best in your lives. May what you have left to live be better than what you have already lived. Am I the asshole for causing my oldest son's girlfriend to dump him by giving relationship advice to my youngest son on his birthday? First, I would like to say this actually happened on my youngest son's birthday, but today is the day my oldest son confronted me, so here is what happened. After the cake and presents, my youngest son and I were chatting. He is a young teenager, and now that my wife and I feel he is old enough and mature enough, we gave him permission to begin dating. He wanted advice on his future relationships. His mom and I almost never fight, and apparently it was noticeable enough that he asked about it. The conversation began by talking about learning to respect your partner, etc. I can't remember everything I said, but here are some highlights. Always be ready and willing to say you're sorry, even when you think you're right. Never dismiss your girlfriend's feelings. They are valid, even if you don't understand them. Communicate, communicate, communicate. If something is bothering you and you don't tell your significant other, you're only hurting yourself. Listen when she is trying to tell you something, no matter how much you don't want to hear it. Put the game controller down and mute the TV whenever she wants your attention. End every conversation with a sign of your affection, and if you won't see her for a few hours, give her a hug, a kiss, or both, every time. Throughout the day, randomly tell her you're thinking about her, you care about her, or you love her, and mean it. If you stop meaning it, figure out why and fix it, or break up. Trust is important, and once you've broken it, you might never fix it again. Many people believe love is the most important thing in a relationship, but it's not. It's respect. If you don't respect your partner, or feel she doesn't respect you, talk about it and fix it, or break up, otherwise you will both be miserable. There were a bunch of other pieces of advice I gave him, but that's the general gist. It wasn't all seriousness, we joked around a bit too. I told him this little bit of advice my dad told me a long time ago. You will know when your girlfriend is completely comfortable around you when she is willing to fart in front of you. Don't marry her until that happens. Sage advice, that is. Now, me and my youngest were sitting at my desk having this talk while he was picking out the video games he wanted to buy with his birthday money. My daughter and my oldest son's girlfriend, Sarah, were on the couch playing video games and listening to us. My daughter occasionally chimed in with her own comments. She's been dating a few years now, and had her own bits of advice to give, though her comments were more about how to act on dates, places they can go, and stuff like that. Sarah hardly spoke at all. In hindsight, that should have been a red flag. She's a talkative extrovert and also a very pleasant and generous young woman. I could see the wheels turning in her head though. A couple of times, she looked pointedly at my oldest son, Mark. He was oblivious, glued to his phone, scrolling through. Well, I didn't know what at the time. Eventually my oldest boy came over and dropped off his gift for his little brother. He and Sarah stuck around long enough for him to have some cake, and then they left. Mark barely said 2 words to Sarah the whole time they were here. It was all, "Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. Happy birthday, kiddo?" Nothing to her. At this point I don't know exactly what happened. My daughter managed to get some details from Sarah later that week, after the breakup. Mark came over to yell at me for breaking up his relationship a few days after that. Long story short, Mark wasn't being a good boyfriend. Sarah confronted him with some issues they've been having. She felt like he didn't respect her opinions and feelings, and she dumped him. It's that simple, or so I thought. I love all my children with every bit of my heart, even when they are mad at me, and I admit I fucked up. I am to blame for his breakup. But not because of what I said in front of his girlfriend. I fucked up because I didn't drill the advice I gave my youngest into my oldest boy's head when he was younger. That's what I thought the problem was. He wants me to post this on one of the AITA subs, but I am not going to do that. I admit that I could be a better father, and I can be a real a-hole sometimes, but I'm pretty damn sure that even though I could have read the damn room, that wasn't the real problem. Hopefully my oldest son learns from this. The truth came out when my wife, concerned about Sarah, reached out to her after the breakup. That's when the real bomb dropped. It wasn't just misogynistic podcasts or differing views on housework. It turns out, Mark had been cheating? Not physically, as far as we know, but emotionally. He'd been spending hours online, not just looking at questionable content, but talking to other women, flirting, even sending explicit messages. Sarah found the messages on his phone the night of my youngest son's birthday, after they left. The disrespect went far beyond leaving her out of the conversation at a birthday party. It was a fundamental betrayal. And that's when I lost it. The anger I felt towards Mark was unlike anything I'd experienced before. It wasn't just disappointment. It was a visceral rage. This wasn't just a teenage misunderstanding, it was a deliberate act of cruelty. Suddenly, his insistence on me posting on AITA made sense. He wasn't looking for validation, He was looking for a smokescreen, a way to deflect blame from his own terrible behavior. I confronted him. The shouting match was epic, even by our family's standards. He tried to deny it, then tried to minimize it. "It's just online, Dad. It doesn't mean anything." That's when I told him to get out. Don't come back until you understand what you did wrong, and until you're willing to apologize to Sarah with genuine remorse. Now, I'm not just dealing with a broken-hearted son, I'm dealing with a son who has lost my respect. And I'm left wondering where I went wrong as a father, because clearly, the relationship advice I gave my youngest son wasn't something my oldest son ever absorbed. TLDR. I gave my youngest son relationship advice, causing my oldest son's girlfriend to dump him. Or so I thought. The real reason for the breakup was much worse. My son had been engaging in emotional infidelity online, and now I'm grappling with the betrayal and my own failures as a father. Comments. Comment 1, he wants me to post this "what a strange" request. I understand it's for validation, but a son challenging his father by looking for opinions on a forum suggests such a weird dynamic. Comment 2. Immature enough to think the internet would be on his side on this LMAO. It's clearly too soon for him to start dating. Comment 3. I don't think it's too soon to start dating. I think it's time to learn from mistakes made, and take those lessons into the next round of dating. I barely know anyone who always did everything right from the start in dating and relationships. The old romantic they were high school sweethearts and stayed together from that point on storyline has not been attained by anyone in my chosen social circles. People do dumb shit. Relationships end because of it. All we can do is try to learn from it. Comment 4. Since your post makes it seem like he's reading the comments, I'm directing this to the oldest son. Dude, treat women well. Not because their gender gives them any special status, but because they are human, and almost everyone deserves to be treated with human decency. If you are with a partner and you realize you aren't actually invested in the relationship, just be honest and break up instead of hurting them by stringing them along. If your sole reason for a relationship is because you just want sex, there are a lot of ways to get it if you are honest with your partners and a decent human being. Learn from this breakup and become a better partner so it doesn't happen again. And listen to your parents. It sounds like they actually understand what a healthy relationship looks like, and that is far too rare in this world to take for granted. Comment 5. Also for son, that advice your dad was giving is golden. You should expect to be treated that way as well. If your partner doesn't respect your feelings, listen to you when you have something to share, take your side into account, and communicate honestly, why are you with them? In a good relationship, each party feels like they are getting more than they give. If all the effort is on one side, that isn't a partnership. And almost all of it applies to friendships as well. Up to you on how much physical affection you show. But if you haven't seen your friend in a while, dropping a text with a silly meme goes a long way. Update, 9 days later. I've had a few requests for an update, but life and its troubles kept happening each new day since my original post. I made some comments on the original post, but there were just too many to answer everyone and deal with the PMs people sent me. I'll try to answer the many and varied questions in this update. I'd like to clarify that my oldest son is a young adult, and no longer lives in my home. He came over long enough to drop off my youngest son's gift, eat some cake, and left with his girlfriend. My daughter and youngest son are still teenagers. My daughter and my oldest son's girlfriend met through my son, but they are still friends even after the breakup. With that said, on with the update. After my oldest son and his girlfriend broke up, and he yelled at me for it, many things have been said, some things I didn't know were revealed, and some secrets were told. I gave my son a couple days to cool off before I spoke with him. My wife tried calling a few times, but he wouldn't answer his phone, so I went over to his apartment. His roommate convinced him to let me in to talk, and we did. We also did some shouting, a bit of yelling, and hugged once as well. This is when I found out that my son got a job offer out of state a few weeks ago. It's part of an apprenticeship through his trade school. He is considering it, and this was one of the reasons for the recent tension between him and his girlfriend. She wanted him to stay here, where her family is, and he wanted her to go with him if he took the apprenticeship. It's almost twice the hourly rate he makes at his current job, and the apprenticeship will pay for some of his time spent in classes, although the cost of living is higher there as well. Some people pointed out that my son is a bit misogynistic, and I initially thought that may be a bit true, and I learned part of that is from some of the examples he has seen in my home. I talked to him about this and discovered that he sees things about my marriage in a way they were never meant to be seen. One thing that my son pointed out to me was this thing my wife and I call my magic coffee cup. You see, when my wife is home, I am not allowed to make my own coffee. My wife has always made my coffee since we first started dating. This isn't something I have ever demanded, it's just the way things have always been. It became a joke between my wife and I when we were dating that my coffee cup must be magic because I've never had to fill it myself. Now, after many years of marriage, it's become something I don't even think about. My wife will pick my empty cup up and say some silly magic words like hocus pocus, or bibbidi bobbidi boo while waving her hands over it, and then she takes it to the kitchen and makes me a fresh cup. Sometimes I will pick up my empty cup and say some magic words and then shake the cup or peek inside and then in a pitiful whiny voice say to my wife, "Honey, my magic cup isn't working again." The few times I have tried to make my own coffee when she is home, she gets up, hip checks me out of the way, and makes it for me. I learned my lesson long ago, but my kids never saw that play out when it first developed. This is not the misogynistic act my oldest son believes it to be. I do not think it is my wife's place to have to slave for me by making my coffee. She does it because she loves doing it, not because she has to. If she told me today that I had to make my coffee from now on, I won't say a peep. I'll kiss my wife and go make my coffee. This has become part of another running joke that we have going. The joke is we each don't let the other do specific things around the house so that the other forgets how to do them so we can never leave each other. Officially, I do all the laundry, and she does all the dishes. In reality, she does the occasional load and I do the dishes every once in a while, but we never admit to doing so. I learned to cook her favorite foods so she forgot how to make them, and she does the same for mine. For example, she can't make eggs over easy anymore, and I've forgotten how to make a good slop, which is sausage and egg noodles and cream of mushroom and topped with fried onions. Terrible for you but so good. This, and other little quirks, is part of our love language, and it has taken many years for it to develop. My son mistook the nuanced unspoken, or joked about, parts of our marriage for some sort of male-female traditional marriage role BS. He was seeing the end result of years of small compromises, fights, agreements, and other stuff that lead to the way our marriage works today. Now, while I was having that talk with my oldest boy, my wife and daughter were talking with his ex-girlfriend. We all really like her, and would hate to see them broken up forever. They discovered all the things my son wasn't telling me. From what they learned, my oldest son has been listening to certain podcasters and TikTok influencers that are very misogynistic. My son wanting her to move out of state with him, while she was reluctant to do so, is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to their real problems. When they talked about their futures, they had wildly differing views on what those futures would be like. For example, he got it stuck in his head that women should do the lion's share of the housework. To be fair, doing the dishes seems like it takes a lot more effort than doing laundry, since most of the time is spent waiting for a dryer cycle to finish. But doing the laundry is more than just washing and folding clothes while watching TV or playing video games. It's changing the linens, changing out the towels and robes in the bathrooms, and changing out and cleaning the curtains around the home. None of my kids has ever had to put fresh sheets on their beds, because I do it for them. My wife has done our bed maybe once in the last half dozen years. Laundry, like dishes, are monsters that you battle endlessly. In a good marriage, you and your partner fight those battles side by side, no matter how you split up the workload exactly. Anyway, I hate to see them remain broken up, but my son needs to grow up a bit before that has any hope of happening. I suggested therapy, though I doubt my son will look into it. He's at the age where he thinks he knows everything. He hasn't attained the wisdom to realize that no matter how perfect we think we are, everyone screws up, and sometimes the way we think is very, very wrong. Patrick, I love you, but you need to get your head out of your ass. TL.dr. My oldest boy and his girlfriend look to be going their separate ways for now. Comments. Comment 1. Always love parents who will say how it is and not try to give excuses for their kids' behaviors even if it means hurting their own feelings in the process. TikTok influencers like Andrew Tate push out misogynistic videos all the time that attract teens, and young adults who are underdeveloped emotionally to sell their own propaganda and make money off of. It's best to avoid them and sit down with your son and explain to him why it's bad for his mental health and his future partners. I hope the best for your son as he's still learning lessons such as this one you showed him. You're a great dad. Comment 2. Wondering how often the ex was around OOP and his wife and later got to hear him twisting his parents' healthy relationship into something different. My dad never had to ask for a drink, my mom just refills his cup whenever it's empty. OOP. My daughter and my son's ex are still friends, and she still comes over. Even when they were still together, I saw her more than I did him. She gets along great with my daughter and my wife. Honestly, I don't know how to feel about her still coming around even though they aren't together. I don't want coming over to be awkward for my son, but I'm not going to tell my daughter who she can be friends with. That said, she now knows the background on the magic cup bit that my wife and I do. Yesterday she took my cup and stared at my dead wife in the eyes and said hocus pocus, before running into the kitchen with my cup. My wife chased after her laughing to get my cup back before my son's ex could make me a coffee. Boyfriend's undiagnosed chronic pain made him a freeloader, fine for friends. Suspected a fake, I dumped him. Saw someone's post yesterday about navigating life with a partner who has fibromyalgia and felt inspired to post here. I'm hoping you all can give me some solid advice. I, 26 female, have been with my boyfriend, 30 male, for a little under 2 years. In the time we've been together, his chronic pain, which isn't connected to any particular known condition as he refuses to go to the doctor, has gotten worse and worse. It's reached a point where he's almost incapable of doing chores or house projects, is usually too exhausted. In pain to make or agree to plans, and getting him to do anything outside of the house together is like pulling teeth. His objections always revolve around his pain and fatigue. I've never suffered from chronic pain, and thank God, so I'm not one to judge or accuse someone of making it up, since the pain itself is invisible and my boyfriend looks perfectly healthy, but he's now been unemployed for about 4 months and I'm starting to question things. I'm starting to feel doubtful for a number of reasons, and the main ones are that A. He never turns down his friends' invitations to hang out, even when the activity is something physically intense like kayaking, or going hiking, or going to a music festival, and B. He is never too tired, in too much pain to have sex. Over time it's almost made it seem like he's conveniently in an unbearable amount of pain when he has to do something he isn't all that interested in, i.e. chores, and I'm starting to feel hurt that he just doesn't seem to want to hang out with me outside of what we do lazing around the house. I've never accused him of faking or exaggerating his pain, but I have tried to talk to him about doing more fun stuff together, and it always circles back to his pain or him accusing me of trying to keep him from spending time with his friends, which I'm not trying to do by any means. I've done a ton of research into autoimmune disorders and other conditions that could be causing his problem, always bringing my findings and suggestions to him, but he just doesn't believe a doctor or any traditional medicine will help him. I'm also bothered because when we go to family outings or parties that we're both invited to, it's rare, but it does happen, he will talk anyone who will listen ear off about how bad his chronic pain is and how frustrating it is to not be able to find a solution. The thing is, he's not actually looking for a solution. He just smokes weed every day and calls that good enough while lamenting and complaining that his body is the way that it is. He also refuses to return to work because of his pain. For additional context, he seems to have really extreme muscle spasms, tightness, particularly in his back. I'm happy to support him through hard times, but the fact that he won't work is getting concerning and I feel severely stuck. I'm not interested in supporting him financially on a long-standing basis, but at the moment I partially am by covering some of his expenses. If this post makes me a total asshole for questioning the degree of my boyfriend's chronic pain, so be it. I just need help and answers. So, here are my questions. Where do I go from here? Do you think it's possible that my boyfriend is using his pain as a crutch? Should I put some kind of ultimatum in place that will get him medical care and getting attention? Your advice is appreciated. Comments. Comment 1. Even if he does have chronic illness, he isn't doing anything to get a diagnosis or treatment and he is willing to push on for things that benefit him and only him. He's also developed a drug addiction he has no plans of curbing. I am chronically ill. I am busting my ass trying to find answers and help because living like this sucks. I do everything in my power to support my partner and care for our home. While sometimes that's not a ton, I always prioritize contributing to my household over kayaking, which even if I could push through to do, would put me down for a week. This man is using and taking advantage of you, disabled or not. He also has dumped this on you without you consenting to be his financial caretaker. You're not married. There is no in sickness and health here. Leave him. Comment 2. This right here? It's one thing if he was busting his butt trying to find a solution, but he's doing nothing. He's unemployed and not searching for a solution to get him back to work. Is he unemployed? What are his plans for contributing to the household? Considering his inability to function, do you see yourself continuing a life with him and what would that look like? It's a big question. Do you want kids? Do you want to travel? Is he an excellent homemaker? Comment 3. As someone with chronic pain, even if he wasn't lying, I'd leave him. Chronic pain fucking sucks, I've been there. It's been over 13 years. But it kinda just sounds like he's slowly made you into his bangmaid. Either he's faking it so he doesn't have to work or do any chores, or he has no interest in improving his situation, which isn't sustainable if the person isn't going to pursue medical help or disability benefits. Comment 4. Bangmaid that covers his bills no less. Run, original poster? Run. Comment 5. That's what we call a mommy bangmaid update. 3 days later. Thank you to everyone who responded to my post and was so compassionate and kind. It was incredible to hear from so many people who actively battle chronic pain, illness, and those with loved ones who do. I hope to continue deepening my empathy towards anyone who is struggling with an invisible illness. On to my update. Armed with some fresh perspectives, and some fresh frustrations, lol, I talked to my boyfriend and told him that he needs to see a doctor or I will no longer be able to support him financially and stand by while he remains unemployed and unmotivated to get the help he needs. I also addressed the idea of balancing his energy levels differently so that we're able to share household responsibilities more effectively, spend quality time together, and keep him doing the things he loves with his friends. His response was really bad. He told me that if I'm not willing to step up and clean around the house, something I'm already doing, that there's no use living together and that my efforts to clean are the bare minimum and not good enough for his standards anyway. He was also really mad that I haven't taken initiative to take care of yard projects and car repairs. He sat there and spouted off a whole list of things I'm not noticing and cleaning. And, once again, he was focused on this idea that I don't like his friends, am jealous of them and want him spending less time with them, which isn't true at all. This really stung. He basically brushed over everything I said and focused on my perceived faults. This told me everything I need to know and I told him I was leaving. He was just mad. Not sad or hurt at all. I'm still crying excessively over his whole reaction. I still don't know how real or unreal his chronic pain is, but I guess it doesn't matter anymore. Thank you again, everyone, for your support and kindness. I'm truly at a loss. Comments. Comment 1. Original poster. I remember your first post. I know you're very sad right now, and you have a right to be. But don't let grief overstay its welcome. You are so much better off and he just lost his bangmaid. Expect him to come crawling back when he realizes you're serious. Don't believe anything he says. This internet stranger is proud of you. You deserve someone who can be your partner regardless of whether they have an illness. That doesn't mean they're critical or cruel. Comment 2. Oh man. The idea of an unemployed, constantly stoned layabout accusing someone else of not stepping up is just mind-boggling. Good on you for not letting him take advantage anymore. Comment 3. Listen to me. You will wait a week or 2 or 4 but he will try to come back to you. You did everything for him. No one else is going to do that. While taking on all the financial burdens? Yeah, he's toast. He was absolutely faking it. You don't need to think twice about it. Update us when he comes crawling back. Or once his parents are done with him. Good for you. I remember this from the other day and I was so upset that you did all that for so long. You're going to be much better off in life and I'm excited for you.